Hello world, it's the Gin and Tonic Show. It is 1800 p.m. UTC, and this is the Gin and Tonic Show on the 14th of August, and we are talking about Islam. Today in Islam, what I want to do is I want to talk about timeless values. So the way that it normally works here is I'm going to, just do some definitions, which are still necessary. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but they are. And then we're going to do some, go through a couple of things, some videos, some misconceptions, news topics, and then end with the Hadith of the week. Now, what I normally do is I explain why I am talking about Islam when I am not a believer. I am not a Muslim. So why am I talking, or why do I feel I need to talk about Islam? Well, it's because I am affected by Islam just like everybody else is. And because I'm not a Christian, a Sikh, a Hindu, a Rastafarian, a Zoroastrian, or whatever the case of it, there's like 180 or 185 gods active today. I'm none of those. So I think that, and I believe that I am able to look at Islam more objectively than a Muslim or somebody else who's trying to sell you or anyone else a different kind of God. I don't want that. And because I have been extremely busy the whole day going about my aphilatalism, I feel that I can now go into my atheism, which I find ridiculous. I mean, I'm a non-believer, and I don't know why I should label myself something that I am not. So I also don't have wings. So why am I not an A-wingist? I don't believe in dragons. Why am I not an A-dragonist? I'm not an A-philatelist. I'm not an A-racist. I'm a lot of things that I am not. And why I need to identify myself as a non-God believing human being is beyond me. Now, the absence of a God belief is not an action. So if I am a human being who does not do anything actively, there is no ism associated with that. So I think that the ism approach with atheism is totally ridiculous. But just to keep the discussion going, just to enable a dialogue and to talk about this, I am prepared to label myself atheist. I am prepared to say, yep, I'm an atheist because I have this because of my atheism, even though it doesn't make sense. And I know there's a lot of dictionaries who still say an atheist is somebody who is missing something, is the failure of not believing whatever. I wrote timeless veils instead of timeless values. I forgot the U. Oh, thanks, GP. And now I can't change it anymore. I can only do it when this thing is over, I think, anyway. So, but I don't think this is, I hope this is not critical. Okay, I'm not talking about timeless veils, but timeless values. Oh, shit, I hope I got that right in the Twitter message. Anyway, so I'm talking about a belief, a absence of a belief, a non-knowledge position. So in other words, this whole agnostic thing, this is nonsense. This should just be deleted. So do I believe gods exist? No, I do not believe gods exist. And that's what makes me an atheist. The theist makes the claim that there is evidence, so the theist has to provide the evidence. So I do not have any arguments. I do not have any points as atheist, okay? I'm always speaking as the atheist. As a person, it's a different thing, right? As a person, there's multifaceted different approaches to all sorts of things, but as an atheist, I don't. So I don't consider dragons to exist, so I'm not a dragonist actively participating in a dragonism. Now, we educate and inform, and I try not to bash indiscriminately Muslims or anything. I'm quite willing to accept that there's good things in the Quran, there's good things in Islam, there's things that you can learn from this. Absolutely. I don't have any qualms. There's no problem with that. The only thing is that there is a lot of stuff in the Quran, and especially in the Sunnah, that simply does not fit into the 21st century. And yet, the majority of Muslims are better than their God. The others still exist, and this is what we're trying to find out. Why is it that there are so many Muslims who are just normal people, who are just decent human beings going about their lives, and then you have the exact opposite? Those who insist that you need to believe what they believe, and if you don't believe what they believe, they will kill you. Why is that? So what we're trying to do is, or what I try to do, is look at Islam. What is Islam? And if we compare Islam to other belief systems, then it goes a bit of a different route. If I look at this compared to other God belief systems, because things like Christianity, it's just as an example, it tries to build what they call a kingdom of heaven in people's hearts. Now that is what Christianity tries to do. Now Islam, however, wants to build a kingdom of heaven, but here on earth. So at the end of the day, Islam is basically, and I like this very much, is an Arab supremacist socio-political ideology masquerading as a religion. Because at the end of the day, Islam has a goal, which is a caliphate with Sharia for the entire planet, for everybody, in every country, on every continent, where a caliph is the caretaker and representative for all political, military, and spiritual Islam. So it's a religion as well as a socio-political system, an ideology, a political ideology, and a worldview, a way of life, where the religion determines the other elements, where the political ideology part is in the middle. You've got this God who makes statements which normally you would associate with the Ministry of Interior or Foreign Affairs or war, justice, finance, commerce, or whatever. So you have very, very specific instructions coming from a religious book, from a so-called holy book, from a noble book, which says that women should only inherit half of what a man inherits, and that a man is a degree above a woman. And this is the kind of stuff that you get in the Quran. And this is being implemented in several regions on this planet, and apostates are seen as political traitors, committing treason against the state and therefore need to be executed. Now, Muslims are taught that they are superhumans, all right, the super race dominating this planet, where Islam is going to dominate all other religions. It is the better religion. It is the best religion. And it's all based on the interpretation of this book, the Quran. And because the Quran is so vague and ambiguous, the interpretation of secondary texts, the Sunnah. And that is what we try and show here. GP wrote the Komodo dragon. Yeah, that's a name, but it's not the dragon as in fire-breathing, flying, massive monster. So keep the title as veiled. It was confused. Guess what you're discussing. That's actually a good idea. So if anybody is looking for the gin and tonic on values, they're not going to find anything. Yes, we're talking about something different, about veils. Okay. Anyway, this is what we're trying to do here: analyze facts and then explain Islam and its contents. Now, because it's a discussion show, at least I'm trying to make it that, I'd love to have Muslims come here and explain what they believe, why they believe, and what the consequences of those are, how they manage to live in the 21st century with the instruction set of 7th century nomads of the Arabian desert. And something that interests me personally, how do Muslims manage to live today when there is a lot of criticism, when Muslims are being criticized personally, even if they are like totally normal human beings? I mean, it must be quite devastating to walk around the street and then somebody, have somebody come up to you and say, "Go home, get out of my country." And you're thinking like, excuse me, this is where I was born. This is my country too. It's just because I have a different God. And I would love to hear from Muslims what they say about this, because this is something that puzzles me, that you still get Muslims, that they will still go and they will say, okay, I'm still a Muslim, and that's it. Hi, Thunderous One. Did you
Hi.
want to contribute something, or was this just a microphone test?
I've only just joined.
Okay, because I saw I saw some noise, but I couldn't establish whether this was noise or you trying to say something. Okay, cool.
Sorry, I haven't even caught up with what you're saying, so forgive me for interrupting.
Okay, no problem. Okay, then let me jump right in. I've got 2 or 3 things which I'd like to mention before we go into the topic of timeless veils, because it's quite funny. Well, it's actually, it's not funny, because Salami speaks, okay? But it's not Salami, it's Hussein Salami. And Hossein Salami, the one who speaks, is the deputy commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. And he said that Hezbollah has 100,000 missiles, okay? 100,000 missiles that are ready to hit Israel. Now, it's not Hezbollah has 100,000 Qur'ans that are ready to hit Israel. No, these are missiles that are ready to hit Israel to liberate the occupied Palestinian territories if the Zionist regime repeats its past mistakes. So some idiot in Iran is saying, Israel, we've got a whole shitload full of detonating material aimed at you if you don't do what we want. And that is to go and fuck off and go drown yourselves in the sea, so that our people can take over what you have built over the last 70 years. What? And he says the grounds for the annihilation and collapse of the Zionist regime are present more than ever. And this Salami guy warned that if Israel made the wrong move, it would come under attack. Now, I don't understand. A few weeks ago, a senior advisor to the Quds force, Ahmad Karim force, said Iran could destroy Israel in less than 8 minutes if Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei gave the order. What are these shitheads on about? Why does Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, why would it have any say on whether another state, another country, has a right to exist? Who are they? Who do they think they are? I mean, they always complain that the United Nations is walking into Kuwait to chuck out Iraq and then attack Iraq and attack Afghanistan, blah, blah. And they are doing the same thing. They're saying, okay, if you don't do this, we're going to come and attack you. Because all they want is just this narrow strip of land, which was desert a couple of decades ago. And then the British said, well, come on, let's just give the Israelis a place where they can live. I mean, it's just a piece of desert which nobody wants. And there was nobody there. And now all of a sudden that the Israelis are there, now they're saying, no, now we want it. Now this, it's like kids. You give the brother something, the other one also wants it. It's quite strange. I don't know. Okay, then I have, let me just, okay, let's start off with something funny, because this is really funny, I think, anyway. Okay, this is a jink. All right, I hope everybody can see. Can you see, can everybody see the top? Does it say BBC News, or does it start with Palestinian authorities?
I think it says BBC News.
Oh, okay, because on mine here I've got this funny green thing on top, so I can't see this. Okay, so this is from BBC News, and it says they want to free Palestine. So Palestine, the authorities investigate a mosque music mix-up. Now, anybody who's been in the Middle East must have heard this. That's early in the morning, the loudspeakers come on, and there's a guy on the microphone. No, you need to come and pray. It's like, in those countries, they don't have smartphones, they don't have alarm clocks, they don't have anything. You need the voice of the muezzin calling everybody to prayer. But now what happened is you have, I mean, it's quite hilarious. When you're sitting somewhere, and especially if you're at work, you're at a conference, and suddenly outside these guys start blaring, and you're trying to be serious. I mean, you're talking business, and suddenly the guy outside is calling people to prayer, and then he starts sneezing or he starts coughing or something like this. And you're trying to keep a straight face, especially if you are with Muslims in the room. You know, you're trying to have a meeting, and outside the guy is coughing and spluttering, and he can't continue his singing, and and you can't really laugh. But then mostly the Muslims start laughing, and then it's okay. But it's quite funny. So what they did is they've installed these I don't know if they're cassette players or something, or maybe they're just DVD players, that they push the button and then the da 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 comes on, and they play this sing song that they have that people need to come and pray. But now somebody must have used this DVD player or CD player or whatever it is to listen to some music and then forgot to remove it. So when the Imam comes on the morning, he pushes play and you have music blaring all over the show. So this must have been really funny. And this was some Egyptian guy who was, he's a well-known singer in the Middle East. So his music then came on instead of the words he calling the people to pray. And now there's a huge investigation. How come that this mosque was blaring music and the people couldn't come and watch come and get the call to prayer? So this was hilarious. Then this is amazing. Now in France we have a law which prohibits niqabs and burqas. In other words, you can wear hijabs, in other words, just a headscarf as much as you want, but you can't cover your face. You can't wear stuff which is demeaning for women, and they say you're not allowed to walk around like a walking tent or a walking garbage bin or something like this. So they made it into a law saying you're not allowed to cover your face, you're not allowed to do this. It is against French culture, society, or I don't know what, or maybe it's a security concern. I don't even know how they argued this. Now, women in Islam think they need to cover up because a lot of women have told me, yeah, it's in the Qur'an. It's not in the Qur'an. There's nothing, a khamr is nothing else but something to cover your boobs, all right? That's what it says in the Qur'an. And they are saying, no, no, no. The old men of 1,000 years ago said that this khamr, this cover, is a different cover. This is a special cover. This is a cover that covers your hair. Now, there's no mention of hair in the Quran. But they say this is a hair cover, which is then going down to your boobs. Why it should go down to your ankles then, they don't explain. And why there are 50,000 different versions of this. This is quite strange. So anyway, so this French water park has now said to make the swimming pool or the whatever available for women, they are opening it for the burkini, because female Muslims should be allowed to go swimming as well in privacy, because there are actually in a lot of pools throughout Europe, you have days where you have segregation because some women don't want to show off their fat bodies, then they want to swim alone or something. So instead of losing weight, they go and swim alone. And there you go. And so what they've done is to give Muslim females the same right to be by themselves amongst other females. They have instigated this Burkini Day for Muslim women. The only problem is that only a few kilometers away, in Cannes, the mayor has banned burkini swimsuits from beaches. So the Frenchies are completely confused. They don't know what the hell they are doing. The one has a burkini day and the other one bans burkinis. And now, why does he ban the burkini? Now this is hilarious. That you are not allowed to manifest any religious affiliation in an ostentatious way. So if you, for example, wear a swimming costume with the picture of Jesus on it, you will be banned from the beach, I suppose. Or if you put a cross on your bum, then, or a British flag cross or something like this, then you will be banned from the beach. I don't know what these guys are getting up to. I think this is hilarious that on the one you have a burkini day, and here the burkini is banned forever. And now what I just found 2 minutes ago is on Breitbart, is this by Charlie Hebdo, because Charlie Hebdo had said, okay, we want to, and they took up this burkini ban, and they are making fun. Now the funny thing, they are making fun of the mayor of Cannes. And they are bringing out this Réforme de l'Islam, and they say décoincez-vous, which is like liberate what was suppressed. Okay, so they're making fun of the people in Cannes while at the same time making fun of Muslims the way that they are covered. And now, because they did this, which I think is actually quite funny, because it's showing how you should handle this, and this is with a smile. They're getting bomb threats. This has nothing to do with Islam. The bomb threats have nothing to do whatsoever with Islam. These are people who want to fight for the mayor. Maybe they voted for the mayor, and now they don't like that the mayor went and banned the burkini, and they want to liberate whatever was oppressed before. So whatever was oppressed should be dangling free, and that is it. But you should still wear your beard and your hijab. So there you go.
Yes, in the UK, it was quite hilarious that they weren't focused on anything other than the fact that how on earth can the mayor of Cannes tell the difference between somebody wearing a burkini and a diving suit? I mean, for fuck's sake.
It's true, yeah. Okay, but you don't walk around in a diving suit. I mean, it's much too hot. So,
Well,
but it's true.
If they're going sort of like what they call those sort of like surfboards with a sail, they obviously will have them in Cannes because it's a rich man's toy.
The windsurfers.
But they wear diving suits for those.
I had 2 of them. I'm not a rich man.
Yes, you are. You can afford the internet.
Oh, because I had two windsurfers.
And you live in Germany. Everybody in Germany is rich. That's why all the Muslims are going there.
That's why I have 2 Porsches in the garage. Yeah, I know.
See, you admit it. You just try to fob us off, us peons.
I didn't hear that.
I would so do that if I was rich. It'd be like, okay, there's me, and then there's the peasants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The French are really nuts. Actually, they're going after all the superficial things, and I don't know what kind of counter jihad strategy they're going after burqas and burkinis, and it's all the superficial nature of Islam. They're not going after the core content.
Well, they're blaming Brexit and not initiating Article 15 as part of the problems the French have at the moment with Islam and their coming elections. So we not triggering leaving Europe is in fact going to cause France to go into civil war.
You need to explain that. Yeah, I need elaboration on that.
Right.
Britain not leaving the EU.
This is too stupid.
France is blaming that.
The newspapers have said that Theresa May, the Prime Minister,
What
is not going to initiate Article 15.
Is this British or French?
This is authentic. This is British newspapers.
No, the British or French papers?
British papers.
Okay.
It all started off with Theresa May yesterday saying she couldn't trigger Article 15 because they don't have the crew, the people available to negotiate. But then it came out. Then it came out from other ministers. The other reason is because they don't know who they're going to talk to. And the reason they don't know who they're going to talk to is because France, followed by Germany, are going to have elections. And they don't want to rock the boat because France and Germany have a Muslim problem. And the Muslim problem is going to dictate who is going to be the next Prime Minister. So now, Brexit isn't going to happen until 2019.
Oh my God.
they're blaming Brexit for everything.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say the same thing. Now Brexit is to blame for everything. Exactly.
I don't think it has anything to do with Muslims at all, but it is the Remainers trying to cause trouble and using Muslims as a reason for it.
But now tell me, is the price of Nutella going to go up?
It's difficult to say because nobody in the media seems to understand what a trade deal means.
Yeah.
They all seem to think it means something better than what it actually is. A trade deal with Europe is a cartel deal, like with
Well,
German
the thing
cars.
is, I don't think we should have TTIP, but I think this is going too much into politics and too far away from Islam. So I would not like to discuss TTIP now or train bans. So
Has anyone heard of these Sharia patrols going on in Hamburg, Germany?
no, I've just heard them in Hanover and Hamburg. Really, are they mad?
Wow.
Mm.
Stop spamming.
Apparently
Yeah.
they've actually
Spamming.
got like Islamic State logos and shit, and they're like just driving about in masks and.
Strange. Yes, Frank. Sorry.
Yeah, I just had a question. Like, do you think the AFD has a shot at winning the election 2019? Or
No,
no?
because at the end of the day, I mean, people are starting to wake up. I mean, it's exactly what was said just now. Yes, Brexit. No, sorry, the Muslim problem does sort of well, doesn't determine, but it is one of the factors where you have a lot of people in AFD, in Pegida, and things like that, who are using. I mean, it is the same thing with Marine Le Pen or with what's his name in Holland.
Well, Geert Wilders in Holland
Geert
has
Wilders.
51% of the vote now.
Exactly, and he is riding on this Muslim wave. Now, at the end of the day, though, people go look at the program, what other things they have. And now in Germany, the newspapers have gone and said, yeah, but hang on, AFD might be right on a lot of things they're sort of saying about Islam, but look at the rest, what they are saying. Look at the rest of the program that they have. Are you going to stop all abortions? Are you going to put back Jesus? Are you going to bring back nuclear energy? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? So people are now saying, whoa, 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 check before you vote, all right? So
Well, I
think,
disagree with you there, Spam, because I don't think the majority of people will be looking at what the manifestos are. I think the majority of people will be looking at what the papers tell them to think.
okay, but
And
this is
in the
why I'm
case
saying
of
this is what's
in the
happening in
case of
Germany
Geert
at the
Wilders,
moment.
It will be a case of the man's a racist, blah, blah, blah. So people will not vote for him because they've been told he's a racist, even if he might not be.
I can't
That
tell you
sort
what
of reminds
people...
me with Charlie Hebdo when they pretty much every single person accusing them of racism used a cover that they had depicting a black French woman as a monkey, not even realizing it's actually a far left magazine that was taking the piss out of a right wing party, calling a black French Muslim, calling a black French woman politician a monkey. They were blatantly mocking the fucking racists who said that in the first place. And it's like, you know what? I don't speak French, but I know what I think.
Yeah, this is the funny thing. But it is true that a huge amount and a huge percentage of voters are ignorant. And I think if we talk to Abu, we will have the same situation in Scandinavia, where a lot of people are also clueless what Islam actually is and will believe it. And a lot of people are cashing in on this. So I
figured it out a few days ago that it seems that what the establishment hates is, oh God, how can you put it? Back in World War One, they were all against the communists and the Jews. But when World War One ended,
World War II.
No, listen. When World War One ended, they were still against the communists and still against the Jews, but the fascists, the nationalists were rising, and they didn't even pay them attention. Then you had like some Mussolini get into power, and they realised that the fascism, the nationalists were the enemy. This is the establishment. So now you've got them forgetting about the Jews as the enemy. They're now saying it's the nationalists and the far right and the communists who are our enemy. And they're completely now forgetting that religion can be an enemy when it's like a political Islam. And they're just not touching it with a barge pole. And I think that's what's happening in Europe. They're attacking any group that seems to be attacking a religion because it's not following the establishment code of only attacking communism and only attacking nationalists. Do you understand my point there?
I understand your point. I just don't. I know that the majority of.
Take time to look at the newspapers and say to yourself, the people they're calling racist, are they really racist or are they not?
No, I understand your point. You don't need to repeat the point. I just think that the people are generally ignorant on or about the definition of Islam, because Muslim apologists are selling it as a religion. And a lot of people have a soft spot for a religion. Now, I do not share that. I think we should start clamping down on religions and putting them in their place, which is not in government, not anywhere in the public eye in society. But they should be private. They should be part of their churches, their mosques, their temples, or whatever. But they shouldn't go into parliament. And until we do that, we are.
You do realise you don't actually have to go into this long speech. There's a word that exists for it.
Sorry?
You do realise you don't have to go into this long explanation. There's actually a word for it.
It's secularism.
Exactly.
I know, but I didn't want to use that word. I want to explain to people that there is a soft spot for Islam because it's being sold as a religion. And this is the problem. The problem is that there's a lot of people who do not understand the real, I don't know, the goal behind Islam. They don't understand Sharia. They don't understand what this is.
It's just that. It's also the idea of the underdog. You know, like the little guy being kicked around.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not. This is the problem. This is how it's being sold, but it's not really. So yes, I agree with you, but I think this is the whole mistake, and this is why the Christians think they're not allowed to attack Islam, because then they're attacking themselves. Because if you're attacking a belief system which is, built on a God and has Jesus and Moses on it, it must be good.
Christians are probably quite far up in the league against Islam at the moment. They do a lot of work over here trying to convert Muslims off the religion.
Yeah. Okay, so...
But I do slightly disagree with you. I don't think the media are trying to paint Islam as a religion. I don't think the establishment's doing that. They're just saying Islam is not a problem. Forget Islam. It doesn't exist. It's not the terrorists you're looking at.
This is exactly the problem. And then on the other hand, what they are also doing is they're saying AFD and Pegida are not entirely kosher because they also have other things, and now they are starting to talk about the programs and not only about Islamism or the rejection of Islamism, which is what they've been doing in the past.
I mean, very soon, the British government has just invested, I forget how many billions it is, but it's a new police organisation to investigate people who commit hate crimes on the internet. And they're going to be targeting Twitter and Facebook users.
Oh my God.
Why not shut down the internet and all crime will stop?
Something like that. I mean, it's difficult to understand what exactly their criteria is, but the government is spending a lot of money to shut people up.
This pretty much just reminds me, all this makes me think of is the American attempt at cracking down on downloading. You had a small number of you had a small number of stories where it's like, we're going to make an example out of this person, and it just doesn't fucking work. Everyone downloads. You can't arrest them all, and that whole let's make this person, this person, and this person a horror story to make them too scared to do it. Yeah, it failed. It will always fail. And if you seriously want to police people on the internet, on Twitter and Facebook, for every comment they make, it will go the exact same way as the Americans were downloading.
Yeah. Okay, let's move over to...
I can't figure out how they could just... I don't know how they can say, if you quoted the Qur'an or you said something about Islam, how that becomes a hate crime.
Yeah.
Well, this is regressive.
That's their intent. That's their intent. It doesn't make no sense.
This is sort of like regressive ideology, you know. I mean, I can sort of see it in a way, you know, like if you want to make someone look bad or like create a certain hostility, then I can kind of see how they might have that mentality. But
it seems to be like what they were doing in Germany not so long ago, a couple of weeks back, when they were arresting people. And I'm wondering if this was the legacy of an EU-inspired bureaucracy command that slowly filtered through the British authorities, and we've only just started to see it now.
What is it they were doing a few weeks ago?
Well, they went round arresting anybody who was saying basically anti-Muslim or had any sort of possible links with neo-Nazism. They raided about 20 homes and just based on Facebook evidence and arrested them. I only heard one case. It was a guy had put up a photograph of a naked woman doing a Heil Hitler sign, and underneath it was, "This is what Germany looks like." It was in fact an old World War II Nazi propaganda poster of the 1930s. But
so would that fall under current German law about how it's illegal to do the Sieg Heil thing in public?
No.
Yes, they wanted to try. They wanted to try him for being a Nazi and propagating Nazi literature, because it was in fact.
You need to do more than that. Come on.
No, that's what they arrested him for, and that's what they're trying him for. And it was on Crowton Tea that they interviewed the guy, who is an absolute nut job, who wants Germany to go back to the 1918s Republic and Kingdom.
Yeah, okay, that's different.
I think
photo, because that is not sufficient.
I think I remember about 3 to 5 years ago, I was reading the report, and it was a story on Hindu nationalists. And apparently, at the time, I don't know if it's true, but according to this report I read, Mein Kampf, My Struggle, by Adolf Hitler, was doing very well. And I remember reading an interview with one of the Hindu nationalists who had read the book and said, if you were to change Jew to Muslim, then I would agree with every word.
It wouldn't surprise me. Channel 4 did a documentary, and one of the channel groups that they investigated charities, was in fact a Hindu group, and by God, they were racist as hell. You couldn't hear so much bile and filth coming out of this man's mouth who was running this charity. And it was the same program who had the Muslims investigated as well. That's where they had Dawa Man exposed as being a fanatic and talking about having jihads abroad and wanting to talk about it at a meeting.
Oh, on this funny boat. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It was all on that program. So if you want to look it up on the internet.
So what was it about? So it was about was it like a radical Hindu group in the UK, or?
It was just a charity. It was a charity.
And
before the law changed, the government could do absolutely nothing against these sort of charities that were promoting hate. They changed the law after that.
What were they promoting hate on? Like
everybody who wasn't an Hindu. Oh,
how can you promote hate? What is that?
That's actually really interesting, because like, I mean, in Hinduism, in the Hindu scriptures, and even in the actual Sanskrit language, you know, they don't even have a word for apostate or atheist, things like that. I mean, traditionally, you know, all paths were valid. I mean, there were even atheist schools of Hinduism back in the day.
If you hold up your fingers with your fingers touching and two pointing forward, that is what most people know about Hinduism. But if you stretch your arms as far as you possibly can, yeah, that's as much as what people know. But if you stretch your hands as far away apart as you possibly can, that is how much there is literature about Hinduism. It is so vast, it's beyond most people's full understanding.
Well, I mean, it's a religion that has been unbroken for 5 millennia.
Yeah, it's a bit, I don't know what it would be like. It would be a bit like watching EastEnders and saying somewhere in EastEnders is the way. You just have to figure out which episode and which character and which generation is the way. That's how
broken. Wait a minute here. You say that Hinduism, do you mean Vedic religion in general? Because Hinduism is just like it's like more a package of
It's like a collective word, isn't it?
hundreds of,
Yes,
or maybe
it's hundreds and
thousands
hundreds of books. You've heard of Hare Krishnas? That is just one fraction.
Guys,
Yeah.
Hey,
That's
if
what I
somebody
mean.
talks, why don't you let him finish? GP, come on, take it easy. Let Abu finish. He was trying to
Oh.
make a point.
I heard his point. I was agreeing with him.
No, but I just
Did you have more to say?
no, but I just mean that it's been. I mean, the word Hinduism is. I think it's actually a British invention, isn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, that's right, Abu. The word Hinduism, it's not exactly Hinduism. It's called Sanatana Dharma.
But I mean, like in the word Hinduism, you talk also about Jains and Buddhists and all kind of stuff. But
Because
if you
that's the
mean like
word.
the Vedic,
I'm assuming Sikhs as well, since I think it was actually traditional among Hindu families. But if you had a certain number of children, and then I think one of them traditionally would actually go on to be a Sikh. I can't even remember where that memory comes from.
But Abu, can you just explain? Do you know what the word Hindu actually means, where it comes from?
no, I think it's invented by British colonials, isn't it?
It's
Yes.
basically people living on
Exactly.
the within the Sindh, the river
Exactly.
Sindh
Living beyond the Hindu river.
river. Yep.
That's where it actually comes from, okay? So it doesn't really specify anything.
But I mean, the Vedic religion is
Yeah, okay, now you're talking.
probably I
Yep.
think it's the oldest thing we have detailed information about, but I'm not sure.
Well, it's still a continuing thing, isn't it? I mean, who was that woman a couple of
Yes.
years ago that had like 1 million followers, and then like hundreds of thousands of people went to her funeral, and wasn't she sort of elevated to being like a new goddess or something?
She was reincarnated.
No, elevated in belief. I think I would really have to look this up. I haven't studied Hinduism in so long.
Okay, then let's not talk about Hinduism if we know nothing about it.
But I mean, I just can say that Hinduism
I know
is.
that there's no word in Sanskrit for apostate, for instance.
Anyway, but I find Hinduism or like Vedic religion and Indian philosophy, I think it's very interesting. And I think there are historical connections between India and pretty much most things we see in.
No, the word for apostate in Sanskrit is Nastik, is a person who doesn't believe in God. Nastik.
Well, no, that's not apostate. Like apostate has a certain meaning and a certain connotation. Someone who actually doesn't believe in God is not necessarily an apostate. They can still be on the divine path, which is why there were actually atheistic schools of Hinduism.
An apostate is somebody who rebels against their former belief. He actually goes against it and teaches against it.
Right, and that's not what they did. They were they were without God, but they weren't apostates. There is no word for apostate or infidel.
Well, yeah, there isn't, because there's no need to. Either you are either you believe in God or you don't believe in God. If you believed in God once and then you change your mind, there's no such thing as God, you become a Gnostic. Either you're a Gnostic or a religious person. There's nothing in between.
But you could still be on the Vedic path. You could still be a Hindu.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They don't kill you.
Which again, I mean, this basically what we're talking about right now. This is why I'm so curious that there's apparently a Hindu hate organization against non-Hindus. It just is.
Which is bizarre, because Hinduism traditionally is quite a peaceful religion, it's quite a passive religion. From why,
well, maybe not so much with the whole widow.
The Sikh religion was invented in the 16th century because they were getting wiped out in India by the Muslims, so they had to almost like create or invent a warrior class to fight and purge the Islamization of India at the time. That's what I understand about Sikhism. I know it's a 16th century concoction.
Well, I mean, to say that Hinduism is completely as peaceful is, I don't know. I mean, one famous book is the Bhagavad Gita that is a kind of reaction to that times like princess and like high caste dudes went out in the forest and lived as hermits and things.
Just what was mentioned about creating a warrior class. You know, Sikhism has the parallel of being, by their very natures, warriors and yet peacekeepers at the same time. It's a very interesting thing, particularly when you think of the tradition of fighting and of battle in Hinduism, yet coupled with the peace treaty as well. You know, it's one of the Hindu things. They always carry their daggers around. Was it kippa? You know, like they always carry it around. They're always ready to defend themselves, but they always pray they never have to draw it.
For those, Sikhism is.
I was actually talking to TJ a while ago, and I just I sort of very drunkenly made the observation. The interesting thing is if you compare the Sikh god to the Muslim god, Guru is sort of like the nicotine-free version of Allah. And he just laughed and said, "That's a pretty good description."
Guru Nanak.
Okay, wait a minute. You said, first, this peaceful. I don't know. I mean, if you go back to like the oldest Vedic scriptures, you can find. I mean, there was a warrior caste along the right for a long time. I mean, the Buddha, Gautama Buddha, he was from the warrior caste. So I mean, there was a warrior caste all along.
Yeah, but
and then the Bhagavad Gita came and like.
Well, yeah, but the Buddha just spent 40 years sitting under a tree, slowly gaining more and more weight.
Yeah, but I mean, that was like that time's fad, or like that time's.
You know, I don't know if this has any relation to the idea of him being from a warrior caste, but I remember a story where the Buddha was sitting silently in contemplation, and he was visited by the Monkey King, and the Monkey King was sort of insulting him. It's like, "Oh, you fat god, you lazy god, you as good as me, you as cool as me," and the Monkey King was basically trying to bully the Buddha and make himself out to be, you know, all that. And then just to sort of, the Buddha didn't even reply. It's like, "I don't even give a fuck, mate." And the Monkey King got more and more frustrated. So to sort of prove his own worth, he jumped all across creation until he landed at the end of reality, right at the end of creation, at the end of the universe. And when he landed there, he found 5 pillars holding up the universe. And to prove he'd been there, he carved his name into the middle pillar, and then he jumped back across the face of creation. And he was challenged for Buddha. "Can you do that, you fat god, you lazy god? Can you do what I just did?" And the Buddha didn't even reply. He just held up his fingers, his 5 fingers, and carved onto the middle finger was the Monkey King's name.
Wait a minute. Where did you get this from?
I don't even remember where I got it from.
It's a nice story.
Again, it's been a very long time since I've actually studied like Buddhism and Hinduism and Jainism and all that shit.
Okay.
There's a lot of fake Buddha stories out there, I can tell you.
Well, no, I never said a fake Buddha story. Oh, you mean like actually gaining enlightenment? You mean those otherworldly demons, deities?
No, but I mean like
those fake stories.
No, I mean like fake. That is not from any of the established texts. They're not from the Pali Canon, not from the what's the name?
Well, no, I'm not saying it's an officially recognized story, but it's an interesting story that I remember reading.
I like the story. I like
But
stories.
no, I mean, I am wondering if it's true, especially with him being related to the warrior class, is to actually be from that class, yet to live as he lived, and then to just, you know, just like the ultimate fuck you to the Monkey King without even having to say anything. It's very interesting, especially from a Buddhist conception. You know, the idea of mind over matter, and to actually win a spiritual battle, to be like a spiritual warrior, by actually being passive. It is very interesting.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, it's no surprise that, for example, like the Zen movement, like inspired Japanese warriors and so on. You can definitely pick it up. It's a kind of, I find Stoicism and Buddhism very similar. I actually believe that there is a historical link between them also.
I think one of the things is, when people talk about Islamic violence and religious violence in general, if you actually think of the Hindu charity group we just mentioned then, and they might be Hindu, but what scripture in Hinduism are they drawing from to actually justify this? And if you think of the Buddhists in Burma, who were basically committing a genocide against the Muslims there, real sick stuff. And it's priests, it's Buddhist priests and monks who were encouraging this violence. And like, where the hell in Buddhism do you even get this shit?
They don't get it from Buddhism. They get it from this just tribal behavior.
Could it not be reactionary because they could perceive the way that if they're allowed to tolerate Islam in their own vicinity, that Islam sooner or later would wipe them out, as it's its tendency, whatever it does?
It's not a religious argument. They don't like pick up some verse from the Palikana and like, oh, look here.
Well, with the Buddhists in Burma especially, the propaganda against the Muslims there, it's a lot like Nazi propaganda against Jews. Like Jews have all the money, Jews are powerful, Jews are running this, Jews are running that. That's what the Burmese Buddhists tend to say about Muslims. Like, oh, they got all the money, they're the wealthy ones, they're the ones that influence, they're on TV.
All the money?
And it was very disturbing, the parallels between 1930s Germany and 21st century Burma. It's really, really disturbing.
I think there are some universal, unfortunately, I think kind of tribalism is.
Is there not a pattern developing here? We're talking about Buddhist religion proactively against Islam, and yet no matter where you go, wherever the religion of Islam goes, it's Islam that has this proactiveness against it. You're having it in Europe now, and you're talking about Buddhists. They don't talk about any other religion in that way. They don't have a proactive stand against any other religion, but the religion of Islam.
Well, no, this is a point I've made. This is a point I've made. This is a point I've made before. It's very different to the point I just made because it goes in a vastly different direction. It's a different subject. But yeah, if you want to think about religious violence, religious nationalism, things like that, Buddhist violence, Hindu violence, Christian violence, you can usually locate it to very specific points on the planet. The rest of the planet doesn't have that, but in these areas they do. Whereas with Islam, it's like you have to reverse the question. It's like, is there any areas on the planet you have Muslims where you don't have these problems? And it is a very interesting thing. We have terms like Islamophobia, but there's no other term like that for any other group. I've never heard of anyone being called Buddhist phobic, or Hindu phobic, or Sikh phobic, Jainist phobic, pagan phobic. I've never come across that because these words don't exist because they don't have to exist for any group except Islam.
This word Islamophobia, I find it amazing that people that have some kind of self-respect can take that word seriously. What a stupid word.
I think it really depends because the problem I have with the word Islamophobia, and I really should make this point, that I have no problem whatsoever with anti-Semitism as a term. If you said anti-Judaism, or anti-Torah or shit like that, I would have a huge problem with it because it conflates the religion with the people. You say anti-Semite. Just imagine if I was saying I think that the God of the Old Testament is an evil prick. No one's going to turn around and say, "Oh, you're an anti-Semite," because they don't link it in that way. I would much prefer the term anti-Muslim. You know, like what is an anti-Muslim? It's right there in the term. It's an anti-Muslim, someone who's against another human being just because they're a Muslim. Whereas Islamophobia, you know, it's like you can use that term just by criticizing the religion and the texts. Now, a lot of people actually, when they hear Islamophobia, they don't think, oh, yeah, talking about the theology. They do sort of link it with having a problem against Muslims just because they're Muslims. But it's sort of the power of the word itself that you can be accused of being Islamophobic if you talk about the scripture. And because it is so linked, people don't, like, some people just sort of pause like, is that Islamophobic? Whereas no one ever does that if you criticize the Old Testament. No one would ever call you anti-Semitic. If they did, people would laugh. It's just the power of words. I really wish that anti-Muslim would take the place of Islamophobia.
If you was to go by like a biblical parallel, then I think it's in 1 John 2:18. It says there, those who deny the Father and Son, these are the Antichrist. They stand against, say, the God of the Bible and Jesus of the Bible. So if you were to make a term to fit what you're trying to say, you would have to use the word anti-Qur'an or anti-Muslim. That would be the term.
Sex Pistols.
It fits.
I am an anarchist. I am an antichrist. Don't know what I want.
Okay, that's enough.
You know?
Yes.
I would love it if Sex Pistols.
Okay, can we get back to what we were talking about?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to Turkey, because I still want to mention a couple of things about Turkey, which I think is actually now getting, it's hilarious. It's a comedy by now. What Turkey is trying to do, because now Turkey warns the European Union that the European Union made mistakes in the coup, in the so-called coup, we still don't know whether this actually happened or not, in Turkey, where the military, once again, I mean, they've had to do this a couple of times, once again intervened to keep Turkey secular, and apparently they failed. So now Turkey is more than ever on its way into a, well, is it a caliphate? Is it a dictatorship? What would you call Turkey with Erdogan? Anyway, so what they're doing now is they're saying there will be serious consequences for the European Union if they are carrying on with making the mistakes. In other words, that they are threatening Turkey, that they are not interested in an Islamicized or Islamic Turkey. Now the US is saying, listen, you need to stop this. And there are even voices that are calling for an expulsion of Turkey from NATO, because they cannot handle an Islamist Turkey within NATO. So what Turkey is doing is saying, listen, you need to be with us, you cannot afford to be against us. Now they're going to the US and saying, listen, United States, what is being said is, we want this Mr. Gulen, who is in some retreat in Pennsylvania somewhere. Now, I don't know how Turkey can go and threaten the United States and say, you need to extradite this guy, where there is not a shred of evidence that Gulen was in any way involved in a coup that happened, what was it, a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, in Turkey. So I don't understand what is going to happen, or what Turkey thinks it is achieving by threatening the EU and threatening the United States, when it is getting a shithouse full of money from the US and from the European Union, and it thinks that it can now go and talk nonsense and try and blackmail both these countries, both these blocs, to do whatever they want. I don't know, what are your views? What is Turkey going to look like in 10 years from now?
Well, considering that Turkey could just open the doors and let all the migrants through, they sort of do have sort of gun to the head of the European Union.
Is that really true?
Considering how many they're housing, that they're being paid to house, and that they could open the borders just to piss off the EU.
Okay, what would that
true.
mean?
I mean,
They open the borders, and then
look
what?
at the political turmoil. Look at European politics, just with the amount of refugees that we've had. Just imagine Turkey actually saying to EU government figures, you know what, I can open the floodgates, you know I can do it.
Okay, and what would be the consequence?
I don't even know. I don't know if the politicians know. But I think just with the rapid rise in attacks by jihadis, with the rapid rise in their own parties being threatened with this surge of nationalism and shit, I imagine they're thinking, whatever I'm imagining, it might be worse.
Okay, because I'm looking at, well, I think I'm being realistic, because anybody who leaves Syria has to cross all of Turkey, has to cross the bridge and then go past Istanbul, and then he arrives at the border. There is only one border, and that is to Greece. Now, if the Greeks don't open the border, what are they going to do? The only thing they can do is bypass it, and the only way to bypass it is via the sea, either going through the Black Sea or going through the what is it called, the Aegean or something.
Well, I mean, the Greeks and a few other countries, Hungary, Austria, they did actually at a point pretty much just wave them through. It's like, we don't want you here, we don't want to be here. No? Well, what are you doing then? Oh, I'm passing through. Where are you going? I don't know, Germany, Sweden? Oh, right you are.
All right, and this is exactly where the EU now has to stop. And now some German politician, some woman came up with an idea, okay, let's take up the Egyptian offer and put them all on an island. And now
that was one billionaire that had this like fantasy island or something.
Exactly. And now everybody's up in arms about this. I don't quite understand. Why are people up in arms in having a society made up of people who come from Syria and Iraq, who are part of a coherent group, who are fleeing from a situation which, is pernicious and is dangerous for them, and they will go to a place where they can design their own society. I don't think that is so wrong. Instead of taking them into a society in Denmark or Germany where they don't really know what is what. I mean, it is not part of their society. So I don't think it's that bad of a suggestion. Now, if Turkey opens the borders, we're going to have an influx through Greece. The Greeks can send them back. Or we can really say the money that was paid to Turkey, let's combine that with the money of this Egyptian billionaire and build an infrastructure on an island and have the people there until peace returns to Syria and Iraq, and they can go back home. What is so wrong with that?
There is no island.
Sorry?
There's no use saying you're going to send them to an island when there is no island. Unless you're planning to send them to somewhere like Croatia and the little island there that Russia's grabbed hold of.
Well, you know what you could do? You could go to Dubai and pay people there to build an island.
Or you could ask the Chinese to build one, I suppose. Where would you like to put it, Spam? Somewhere in the Mediterranean?
In the Mediterranean, there are thousands of islands.
Yeah, full of Greeks and migrants.
No, they are not. It's not full of it. There are some uninhabited Greek islands where you could build an infrastructure. I mean, if you've got a couple of billion available, it's easy to build an infrastructure and put people there, which is better than keeping them in a tent in Jordan or taking them into a hostel or something in the middle of nowhere in France or Denmark or Germany.
Aren't we talking
I genuinely
about
don't know if what you're saying.
Whoa! We can't all speak at the same time.
I said I genuinely don't know if what you're saying reminds me more about that X-Men storyline with the island of Judoka, or if it reminds me more of that 1930s novel Lord of the Flies. I really don't know which it reminds me of more.
Well, the problem is the people that are coming in. Most of them are not Syrians. They are Afghanis, Iraqis, Africans. What you gonna do?
Jordanians, Ethiopians.
Yeah. Well, what you gonna do after you build up the infrastructure? Where are you gonna send those people?
Exactly the same place. You see, I think it will also serve as a deterrent.
Are there any
Well,
islands
exactly what
that
you are
actually
saying,
big
that the
enough?
people from Afghanistan are not going to say, okay, let's take the opportunity now and let us now pretend that we are also refugees and get into Europe, where all we need to do is we need to open our hands, we get our monthly salary, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah,
Are
but
there any uninhabited islands that could be bought that actually are big enough and actually have enough natural resources for them to become a nation and for them to actually, like, you know, buy and sell and shit like that? I'm not sure how many there are.
Well, somebody
United
did the
Kingdom?
maths and they said yes.
That?
United Kingdom.
No, stop. What?
Somebody did the maths and apparently yes.
Oh, okay then. Oh, I meant to say, you mentioned earlier that the army tried to overthrow Turkey. I mean, aren't they saying that it's only like a number of people who were in the army, but it was unofficial, like the army itself actually didn't do it?
Well, nobody really knows what happened. I mean, there's a history of this because Ataturk said Turkey should be secular, okay? And then time and again,
And the
there
army
have
doesn't work
been
with the government, does
Turkey
it?
presidents who
It's from the
tried to put
constitution.
Islam back into Turkey, and then the military always said, no, we're not having Islam back in Turkey, it's going to stay secular, and then they gave power back to the politicians. So this has happened, I don't know, 3 or 4 times already.
Yeah, because for those watching who don't know, the Turkish military is not actually answerable to the government. Their job is to uphold the constitution. And it's considered to be like a separate thing.
And that's what they've done. So,
For anyone that
so
doesn't know.
it's quite weird that now Erdogan is taking control, and Erdogan is calling the shots, and Erdogan, who is just another bloke, who said, well, I'm going to change everything, I'm going to make Turkey great. Well, it didn't work, and when it didn't work, well, now he's blaming everybody else. And now he wants this old guy Gulen back in Istanbul, in Ankara. What is he going to do with him in Ankara? He's going to put him to court. The guy's going to say, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And he's going to say, well, you are the reason why we had the coup, which nobody else knows whether it really happened. And then what? They're going to kill Gulen, and then what? His followers, Gulen's followers, are going to do what? Then they're going to go, we're going to have a civil war. So, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, then, oh, I thought somebody said something. Now, the thing that I have then is something on Daesh, because there has to be something on Daesh on the Jinn&Tonic show. That is that there is a rapid decrease of people being being seen at the moment who go into Syria and Iraq. And now I've got Clinton there who's doing this, which I didn't intend to be here. But it's quite quite strange that the US, who are officially not even there, who just sort of a advisor role, are the ones who are saying that, well, yeah, Islamic State is going down, and sort of saying, well, we have killed about 25,000 enemy fighters.
Well, it's not really just an advisory state when it's public knowledge that there's the United States is giving air cover to the rebels that they're backing.
Well, yeah, exactly. So they are involved, but they said, we're never going to have boots on the ground. They said, well, maybe some boots on the ground, and maybe some people are going to be there. And now this is another, they call this a US-led coalition. So I don't understand why the US can't stay out of this thing. I don't understand this. And why they then take the, well, I don't know what you want to call this. They're not taking the blame, but they're taking the praise and saying, we killed 25,000 plus the 20 plus 40,000, when in reality this is mostly done by Iraqis.
Was it Iraq? Was it, sorry, not, was it, what city was it? Was it Raqqa that that Kurdish forces backed by the US military recently liberated?
No.
Like today or yesterday. And it was like, there were videos of women like burning their burqas.
Yeah,
and
shit, I forgot the name now. Shit, we had it 2 weeks ago on the show. I forgot. I've got a block at the moment.
What did you just say? Sorry.
Well, you know what I'm talking about?
The city that was reclaimed by Iraq.
Well, reclaimed by the Kurds.
Yeah, the Kurds.
Yeah, and didn't they the Kurdish fighters didn't they actually negotiate with Islamic State
No, they tried
to actually
they
leave,
made
and
them vote.
and I think it took like 2,000 relatives or something.
Yeah, but they couldn't. They gave them notice and then it didn't work. But I can't remember the name of the city. I can't believe it.
But you have to
Well,
understand
talking about
American military practices
talking about
to understand
politicians
why
with
they're there.
Syria. Does anyone remember a few
On the
years
ground.
ago when?
No, you two guys need to sort each other out because it's Raven and GP talking at the same time.
Sort him out. He's old enough to be my dad. What's wrong with you?
Quiet, son. I just
Well,
want
does anyone
to say
remember
you
a
have
few
to
years ago when
understand.
Nick Griffin of the BNP
You have to
actually went to
understand.
Syria at the
I want to
invitation of
add
Assad?
that with an older point. Can I say something that is before what you need to say? And that is, you have to understand American military practices to know they need boots on the ground because it's the special forces that light up the targets for the jet fighters to hit. The Americans do not have smart technology in their missiles to hit like the British do. That's why they were very glad that we are now bombing Syria, because we have the smart bombs, which they don't. They
Well,
have laser-guided bombs, which was shown in Iraq. You highlight a target with a light that the people can't see, but an aircraft could spot, and then the aircraft sends a missile right down the line, and boom!
How the hell does the Brits have this and not the Americans?
No, the Americans have that. What the British has is the same system, but it works on the plane. It works in the bomb. They cost more.
Wow.
There's
Well,
something
you know-
like 20 of them, something like that.
You know, even let's see if the Islamic State was to disappear. Now, state problem is gone, but Islamic is still there.
Exactly. That's why I said you can't bomb bad ideas.
And that's the religion of peace. It's just the Islamic State that's gone.
Yeah, okay, but let's face it. There's a lot of radicalization going on, which is going to stop if Daesh disappear. I mean, it's one good step in the right direction.
It brought up
That's
that
actually one of the-
Hardy variety
that's
just
Oh, yeah,
said.
that's-
I'm
that-
so
that-
against
that-
having
that's what I said.
criminalization of propaganda for the Islamic State. You know, you can only crush bad ideas by combating them with better ideas. If you don't do that, if you make it illegal to even let these ideas public, then instead of actually crushing them, which better ideas will do, you just drive them down and they fester and grow and spread because
You
they
need to
do
do
not
both.
have these better ideas to counter them.
You need
And-
to do
and-
both.
And
It's one of
that's and that's something that needs to be done. People are not doing enough. You know, they are. That is the key.
Well, they're only doing the one. They're doing the bombing. They're trying to crush it that way, but they're not crushing the ideas.
No, they're leaving
Well,
it
we
to us.
are,
They're leaving it
but
to the
we're
Gin
not.
and Tonic show.
We are, but we're not the establishment.
Well, I was watching an interview with Majid Nawad. I don't know how recent the interview was. I just saw it on YouTube randomly. But it was talking about how we're not doing enough at home. And he just mentioned how the Islamic State popped up. And, you know, all of a sudden you had like 6,000 Europeans go and join. And he was just made a point, you know, this didn't just happen overnight. You know, they've had Islamists, radical Salafis, and this entire propaganda going on since at least the 1990s, and they were primed and ready. That's why almost overnight you had the Islamic State, and then the next day 6,000 Europeans have gone off to join. And he's made the point before about the need to stop these ideas at home.
Well, we had
No,
a
like-
situation where we had people protesting the English soldiers in Afghanistan and burning poppies. That would be Adrian Childi's group, and the authorities were allowing them to do it. But when people like the EDL went to protest against Childi's lot, the EDL were getting arrested and kettled by the police. So what they were seeing was the bad guys, the Muslims burning poppies, were being supported by the police, and it's going on today. That's what Britain First was sort of like highlighting in their videos. It wasn't Britain First who was doing a legal protest who were escorted out of areas. Oh, sorry, it wasn't the Muslims who were trying to stop them protesting. It was Britain First who was doing the legal protests that were surrounded by the police and shunted off. And then later,
Well, everybody.
charged.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is about everybody's mate Andy and his band of merry men, Al Mujahideen, Sharif UK, whatever they're calling themselves this week. Andy is like is what's called a honeypot, you know. I mean, he's very useful because he publicly says all this, and then the people that actually take him seriously are stupid enough to not realise that he is a honeypot. And he's just useful in that way. He's the honey that catches the flies.
Honey for whom?
Security services?
Yeah, but the security service, we're finding out, aren't doing anything.
Well, isn't he still in prison now, Andy?
Well, that's after they changed their minds about when Cameron said, even if they're doing legal things, we shall arrest them.
I know, I hated that. I was on Andy's side in that case.
Well, that's the only reason he's in prison now.
Which is what I'm saying now. If you make it so you cannot express these ideas in public, then you're just going to drive them underground, where they're not going to be challenged, where they will just grow and spread.
Well, you've got to do both. I mean, Douglas Murray says you've got to challenge the ideas, but if you don't bring it down people size to manageable numbers, it's like it passes a critical point, and you can't stop the idea spreading. You have to, I don't know, if you've got a virus growing in a Petri dish, you've got to start putting in the antibiotics to kill the virus, and then maybe you can cut out the bad viruses in the Petri dish.
You can't kill a virus with
I'm just trying to give it a simile. I'm just trying to say is you've got to reduce the numbers and you've got to fight the ideas, or you won't win, because there will always be somebody who survives your, shall we say, stamping out.
Yeah, point taken, absolutely. And that is why it is so crucial in my eyes that we provide information, that we don't let the Christians, we don't let other religions go and address Islam. We need to be more vocal about this. People need to understand what Islam is.
What's wrong with Christians fighting religion with religion? I mean, they've got a fairly good argument for people who believe in God to convert people to Christianity.
No, the point is, if a Christian goes and criticizes Islam, the credibility is zero, because people are saying, well, you just want to convert them to Christianity. Because as soon as a Christian goes, immediately the Muslim will say, well, your Bible is even worse than our Quran. Your God is even worse than our God. So these things don't really work. It needs to come from a different point of view. You can't have a Christian. Like, I noticed on this page, you have Tim Cook, you have a Ryan Lochte or something, and a GOP strategist and so forth, but you have an American Muslim fencer. Why is it that religions play such a big role? And this is what we need to do. This is what I'm saying. We need to be more vocal and outspoken and put them back in their place.
But
I think when it comes to the idea of Christianity taking on Islam, the interesting thing there is Islam sort of has a one-up on Christianity in that regard.
What did you say, Raven? What did you say in the beginning? GP was talking and you were talking at the same time. First Raven, then GP.
I think if you want to talk about maybe fighting religion with religion, when it comes to Christianity and Islam, Islam has an inherent leg up on Christianity. There's nothing in Christianity which specifically talks about Islam. There's nothing that every Christian child is embedded with as sort of a wall of defense against Islam. Whereas within Islam, you have that wall of defense against Christianity. You know, I mean, you have Christianity specifically mentioned in the Islamic religion. You have explicitly mentioned about how Christianity teaches this and this and this, and it's wrong, and here's how it's wrong. Christianity does not have this inherent counter.
Yeah, but that's because it's 500 years in the future. So
yeah, but hang on, whoa. GP has to make his point first.
It's actually thunderous.
Yeah, I didn't speak before it was thunderous.
Christianity does have text, but it doesn't have specific text against Islam as far as doctrinal views are concerned. For example, Jesus said quite clearly, false prophets will arise. I think it is in the book of Galatians, chapter 1. If we or an angel out of heaven was declared to you good news, and other than good news, let him be accursed. Revelation 22 talks about if anybody adds a book to this, let him be accursed. The Apostle Paul makes it clear, what fellowship does righteousness have with lawlessness? So there are, if you like, biblical texts that generalize against anything that is opposite to what the Bible teaches. Now, for instance, I mentioned it earlier about
Islam isn't necessarily against what the Bible teaches. Muhammad himself actually said that, you know, Christians should judge according to the Gospels.
Yeah, but Muhammad was talking to people who couldn't read or write, that couldn't go to the books to see if those texts were there. That was a red herring, and he knew it. He himself didn't know if the text was there. That's why he said it was a red herring, calling their bluff, knowing that they wouldn't go and test him out, knowing that they couldn't go and test him out because they couldn't read or write anyway.
Okay, but we need to address it. This is the whole point. You cannot bomb these ideas. You can only provide information to the contrary and expose the bad ideas. I think this is the only way to go about it. And that is information, information, information. And I think this is the crucial element that is necessary here. And I think this is something that Majid also says, that you need to go and provide facts. You need to provide information to the people so that they know what it is that they are talking about, which at the moment is not possible. Okay,
so what do we think about the that imam and his mate that were gunned down in Queens?
We don't have information.
Is this like some lone wolf on some sort of retaliation against Islam?
That's speculation at the moment because we don't know what it is.
I know, I'm just wondering if anyone has any speculations of their own.
No, please.
Let's
wait.
Fun conversation.
Let's leave the speculation
Not fun
to
for
other
them,
people.
obviously.
Okay, here's a fact. Expats wake up to new visa fees. Now, in Saudi, they have a problem that they have too many people that they don't want there and not enough people whom they do want there. So what they've said is, let's get a new structure in the fees so that somebody who goes there for the first time or goes on Hajj does not have to pay so much for the visa, but if somebody comes on a pleasure trip, then they can pay more money. The problem is that they have a lot of people who are working there long term, like for a year or something, and then, for example, if the wife is supposed to come and visit them, then they need to pay for a visa. And they don't earn enough now to pay for the second and third visa because the prices rise. And now this is the problem for the people. I mean, if you're a rich expert getting paid 30, 40, 50,000 euros a month, then it doesn't affect you. But if you're getting paid 5,000 a year, then it does affect you. So this is another attempt now by the Saudis to reduce the number of people that they don't want in there.
So it's not an attempt at just getting money because they're panicking about the oil.
No, this is peanuts. I mean, yes, it is money for the individual, but it's peanuts for the government. No, it's just trying to regulate this a bit. It's a deterrent for people to come and spend time there who are not wanted. It's just something that they think that they are now controlling who is coming into the country.
Could they be afraid of all the people getting killed?
Okay.
Could it be they're just afraid of all of the people getting crushed now that it's getting filmed on people's cameras? People might level the charge of it can't be a wholly protected place if people are getting crushed to death by doing these pilgrimages.
But it's instant Jannah.
No, yeah, but I've said that, and I've had secularists go absolutely bananas and say, "How dare you say they're going to go to their heaven because of this?"
Well, that's
what it's about.
Exactly.
So, is it part of the Saudi government's effort to try and stop people being killed because they're trying to do health and safety, and they don't want the bad press no more?
Well, they're trying to reduce the numbers because they're trying to say, okay, if somebody comes on Hajj, which is a prerequisite in Islam, absolutely, but don't come 2, 3, 4 times because it's not a requirement in Islam. It's sufficient if you come once, and if you want to come twice, do it by all means, but then you need to pay a little bit more.
Yeah, but if you go twice, then you can wipe out all your sins twice.
Yeah, okay, but then you need to pay for it. I mean, it's always been like that all over history. If you want to wipe out your sins, you need to pay. I mean, that's the way it works, isn't it?
I think it was in the Middle Ages in Christianity. If you had enough gold, you could buy your way into heaven.
Exactly. This is why we have Luther. Okay, this is quite an interesting thing, and this I think is the last thing that I have on my agenda. Then we can talk to what I actually want to about timeless values. This is timeless because people are what counts, and this is the whole point I'm trying to make again and again and again. This is a North Korean and a South Korean girl snapping a selfie together. Now, in North Korea, you probably don't have phones that, I don't know what she thought she was doing. I don't know if you get telephones in North Korea. I have no idea what the level of technology is in North Korea. Maybe she doesn't even know. But the point is...
actually had the first beer fest in North Korea recently.
Really, they have beer in North Korea. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is it is people. Now, I hate North Korea with a passion. I think it's the worst thing that you could do. I think it's the absolute total pits. But here you have people, and it's people who are sitting together and taking photos together and going to do sports together and talking to each other. This is what counts, and we can do the same thing with Muslims. We don't have to be against the individual Muslims just because we are against.
But stop spamming. People are people, but what about I forget the sport, but the Egyptian martial artist who refused to shake the hand of a Jew because he lost to him in a battle?
You see, this is what shouldn't have. It shouldn't happen.
Wasn't it? Like it was a woman refused to do something with an Israeli, compete or something.
No, this was a man. I was looking at the news article earlier. I might have linked it in the chat.
Actually, I think it was a Saudi woman that refused to. I don't know. I just remember it was a woman in
Egyptian jokey booed by crowd for refusing Israeli rival handshake after losing during the first round of the match.
This is so petty, and this is exactly what I'm against, and it shows exactly that I could be just as wrong as I can be right, because humans can be assholes.
But it is sort of like, I think it's, I remember renting a place from an Arab who was getting landlords, and I wanted to shake his hand and he refused to. And you see a lot of that in the Britain First videos where the Muslims refuse to shake the hands of the women.
Yeah, that was quite funny. That was quite funny, and she realized it. She picked up it quite quickly. It said, "Are you refusing to shake my hand?" And then the police had to go and restrain her because she wanted to shake the guy's hand. And he said, "Nope, you're a woman. I'm not allowed to shake your hand." And he ran away. That was so funny.
But it is a bit of a... Is it not the same sort of thing that probably happened in the Olympics? I mean, the Jews and the Muslim. Oh my God, you're looking at something which is probably shaking hands with pigs.
This is the whole point. Okay, there are some Muslims and there are some Muslims. Like, I remember in Europe, here in Germany, I went up to some girls who were also wearing this burqa thing. I went up to them and said, okay, there's a live stand here somewhere where they are distributing Qur'ans. Have you seen it? Do you know where it is? They ran away screaming because a man was approaching and talking to them. They cannot handle this even in Europe. Now, I would never go up to a woman in the Middle East. You just simply don't. The same way, even if I'm in a business meeting with a woman, I will not go and shake her hand. I will not address her. I will do this with everybody else, but not with the women. You know this. And even here in Europe, they ran away screaming just because a man talks.
Did they actually scream like in horror or giggling or what?
Ah!
Well, it was ah or ha ha ha.
No, it was more horror. It was more, I don't know what to do.
I've never come across that in the UK, I have to say.
Well, try it. If you see a woman in burqa, say, listen.
No, I have spoken to women in burqas. I've never come across that in the UK.
So they talk to you?
Well, it's like, I mean, I don't necessarily ask for their life story. It's just like, oh, excuse me, do you know where such and such? And, you know.
Yeah, but I like English women. If you went to Harrods and you tried to talk to one of the burqa-clad Gulf State Arabs with the metal masks, you probably would find yourself in a completely different kettle of fish.
What, just like, oh, excuse me, do you know the way to the nearest tube
station? Behead him! They are, the Arabs in London are, I've always been told, a little bit more fanatic. Because
I've actually
British.
noticed a lot
They
of
are not British. They are very rich princes over here with their harem.
Actually, GP, you're making a good point there, because what is possible is
lot
that
of
these
Arabs
were
and
not locals, but these are just on holiday or something. That they came from a country, maybe even from Saudi, and were just here on holiday, and that now suddenly a man is approaching them. Oh my God, this could be actually it. You're right. Because you have all the embassies here, and then if somebody from the Saudi embassy has a visitor and they go to town, let me go to town and see what they have here, and then a strange man approaches them. It could very well be. Yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah, for abroad they have such completely different mindsets and cultures sometimes.
No, they're not
That
used to it.
It transcends the religion.
Yeah, if you're not used to it. Here you go. I mean, Saudi woman can't travel without the hubby's nod, even if it's with her father. I mean, when my wife left, I mean, she went home because she came visited. She wasn't staying all the time. I got an SMS that my wife is leaving the country.
Awesome.
So this is quite strange. These are
In case
rules
you
in the
run off and leave,
21st
you need to
century.
come collect that.
And I mean, have you heard the story about the guy in the aeroplane telling a female flight attendant she is a bad Muslim because she is working in an aeroplane and there is no mahram with her while she is on the aeroplane working? Crazy.
Nope.
Okay, Hajj, the ultimate journey. This is what we were talking about earlier. This is what now Saudi Arabia is trying to propagate that people come on Hajj, but only once, because it's the ultimate journey, and you don't do it twice or thrice or four, whatever times. So you come to the most sacred space, and that is it, because you need to go and do this running around the Kaaba 7 times the way that your God prescribed it, and they don't even realize that these are pagan rituals. There you go. But it's a nice photo.
Well,
No, rituals pagan incorporated from Abraham.
The problem with the Saudi Arabia is when you're going for Hajj, they keep the fees fairly low. When you go for Umrah, that's the other that you can do as many times you want. That's where they want to get you.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
And the last news story I can think of was one of the young girls who travelled off to Syria, one of the jihadi bribes, was killed apparently in a Russian airstrike.
Was that one of those 3 that went together? Or like 15 of it?
The oldest one.
Wow.
Wow.
That is so sad.
They were saying her family that the 3 girls, prior to her death, they all wanted to escape and try to get out. They'd all been married off, and they were all scared that
wasn't at least one of them pregnant.
An example would be made of them if they escaped by ISIS.
I think it was at least one of them was reportedly pregnant.
All I know is they were all married off.
I don't know if we were at the time of the bombings, but...
And I don't think they used contraceptives, so it's probably it might be pregnant.
By the way, the only person who has not said anything is Mr. Apostate. Pretty Apostate, is there anything that you want to contribute? Are we talking too much too quickly, or are you just hanging out?
Well, about half an hour ago he said good night, everyone.
Well, but I still see his icon in here, so I thought...
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I actually decided to wait.
Oh, hey!
Greetings. But the conversation was so lively, so I didn't want to interrupt.
I'm getting such a kick out of your picture.
Anyway, about the strangest beliefs that I encountered in my life. Around one and a half months ago, I had an extremely interesting conversation with a Muslim woman, and I wanted to share the things I learned.
Okay, go for it.
So the conversation actually started about the airplanes, and then she mentioned that airplanes were actually invented in the Qur'an. at that time, I was reading the news, and that phrase caught my attention. I was like, "What? Please tell me more." Said yes, because its wings work like birds, and bird was created. So the plane was also created by the Creator.
Does that mean that we're gods?
No.
It's Hadith for the week.
Wait. Then she told me the train was also created in the Quran. I was asked, how? Well, and she said, I don't know if it's really in the Quran, but she said, the snake is described with many, many legs, exactly like a train, long and with many legs.
The snake is described with many, many legs.
Yes. I said, you know that a snake doesn't have legs. And she said, you know, actually, we believe that snake does have legs. I said, we can catch a snake if you want, and I can show it doesn't have any legs. She said, it doesn't matter to me. I know our grandmother. She lives in a village near a river, and there is a lot of snakes there. And she told us that once she saw the legs of a snake.
Was it attached to an actual living snake?
No,
Yes.
you get this.
Yeah.
It's possible.
That actually is possible.
No. I said, I asked, is it like the vestigial legs? I showed her the photo. She said, no, like a caterpillar. Many, many legs.
No. There is nowhere in snake evolution that has that. There's no regressive traits.
Well, maybe it was a long caterpillar.
Or a very big caterpillar.
I mean, there used to be.
I think it was a specific type of snake called a hallucination.
I mean, if you
Anyway, that's not all. After that, I began to ask, what else does she believe? For example, the question of free will. And she told me that when a person is born, there is something like a blackboard created for him, and two angels on each of his shoulders write down all the good and bad deeds in his life. I asked, do they write down them before or after I do the deeds? She said, we believe that they know everything you will do before you even do it. So I said, if they know that I will hit you right now and they already written, how can you blame me? How can that be a sin if I hit you in the face if I could not avoid it? She said, but you can avoid it. And I asked, if I can avoid it, then the angels do not know what I will do or do not. No, they know everything. Well, if they tell that they know everything and they wrote down the sin that I did not commit, they are lying. You should have seen the look at her face. It was impossible. It's impossible to describe. It's just the cognitive dissonance of the highest order. And then she told me one thing that I will remember for all my future conversations, I think. She told me, please remember, we were taught from young age not to ask such stupid questions. We were taught to believe, and that is what we will do.
You know what you should do? You should tell that story to Daniel Dennett. I basically think that's what I call Islamic compatibilism. I think they basically have the same problem. They, in one way, say that everything is determined, and then they say, but you can choose.
No, the problem is that they don't actually think about that. They avoid thinking about it. So in the previous episode, sorry?
So whereabouts was this? Like, what country?
This was actually right now I'm living abroad, but she was from a post-Soviet country.
Post-Soviet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I no longer have.
So there was like no leftover communism that might have maybe had an impact.
Actually, in the Soviet Union, the religion was very frowned upon, and in the beginning, they tried to remove all religion altogether. And right now,
but like post-Soviet countries tend to have like those remnants with, there's like a bit of hostility to the whole religion thing.
Not really. Right now, religion is beginning to be re-implemented in Russia and other post-Soviet countries.
Well, yeah, Stalin with halos.
But for example, in the South countries like Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, you can see a mix of the old pagan ways with the Muslim ways. But still, it's completely different from the ones you see in Europe.
I personally wouldn't criticise her thinking on the grounds that there are quite a few science fiction authors who have tackled the time theories and have come up with similar explanations how somebody could have a choice but no choice. This is where you get the split universes and multi-dimensional universes where a choice.
What you mean, like an infinite number of possibilities, and we happen to be living in the universe where you went left, but there's another.
No. What did
you
say?
And you've got a God living outside of space and time who's documenting it, and he's documented all the multi-universes. So yes, in that sort of sense, you can get away with it. It's all woo, but.
Wait a minute. Actually, no. If the future exists as a number of possibilities, then you cannot say that it's predetermined. And if it's not predetermined, you cannot have an all-knowing being.
But what if all the predetermined futures are going to happen? It's not a case of you go left, but you don't go right. It's a case of you go right and you go left, and the universe splits. There are now two of you.
Okay, for example, an angel comes down to me and tells me, you will now buy strawberry ice cream.
Okay, so you choose.
And I instead buy chocolate. So in one universe, then the angel was correct, and in the other, he is a liar. So it's not predetermined, or let's say the angel did not answer the question.
But the angel would say, in one of them you did God's plan, and in the other one you didn't. So you had the choice. And now that you haven't done God's plan, you're condemned to hell.
But what if it's predetermined in the same way of Neo in the Matrix? Like the Oracle told him he wasn't the one, and it turned out that he was. And it's like, well, I told him what he needed to hear.
I think you're confusing some things here. Like
I actually this is just not
Raven, let me.
I know. I'm sorry. To be fair to me, there is occasionally a lag. This is an internet hangout. There is lag. I sometimes think no one is speaking.
Yeah, but there's. I don't want to be rude. Anyway, I think the guys that wrote the Qur'an didn't know about your Everett's many world interpretation, so I don't think they thought about that problem.
No, I think they were thinking about the theology behind it, and theology is just thrashing an idea and coming out with the best answer to the problem that you see. So they're going to have that sort of thing, and science fiction authors are going to have the same thing when they're writing their stories.
But when it comes to this thing about angels and shit, that's not in the Quran. That's in the Hadith. When it comes to predeterminism in the Quran,
no, it is in the Quran.
I think probably the strongest. Probably the strongest example in the Quran you could find of not having your own willpower is the story of the Pharaoh. during Moses, and you know, like Allah's all pissed off the Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's like, okay, you know what? I agree to Allah's terms, and then Allah's like, no, I haven't quite had enough fun fucking with him yet. So Allah hardened his heart, and it's like the Pharaoh had actually said, okay, you win. No, not yet. Harden the heart.
Actually, those angels are in the Quran, but
well, I thought it was Hadith,
and
where
the
it says in
determination.
Hadith that they write down. I thought
already
it
had
was
a show
that
about
they
the
write down
determination.
your entire life and your ultimate end, and then like you know they imbue that into your soul, and then you're born. I know it says in the Quran that there's angels on your left and right shoulder.
But anyway, one thing that is very clear in the Quran is that God wrote everything down before He created everything. So that's very clear.
Well, if he lives outside the time and
Ah.
space, he can be anywhere in the time and space continuum, and therefore he can write it down.
No, that's not true. If he lives outside of time and space, then he lives in a state where there is no time and space, which is nothingness. So it's basically this.
You're just looking through human eyes. You're not looking through Wu eyes. In Wu eyes, he's got a magic mirror, and he can see all along the timeline, just like you can, who lives outside of time and space, so he can be in any point of time and space at any particular moment he desires, and that means he can be everywhere at once.
But that's
therefore
not
he can
that's not
write
the
everything.
that's not the aqidah of
But
Ahl Sunnah. Ahl Sunnah says very clear: Allah exists above the Arsh. He's not in the creation.
But you know that this actually gives us the ability to kill him.
Yeah,
If
the
we ask
Quranic
him,
God is
will
not
you
the
die?
Christian God.
The answer will be no, and then will be the split, and in one of the universes he will die. But because he exists outside the universes and he is just one, he will die in all universes. Anyway, that's not my point. My point is that the people, they actually don't think, they don't reason about these questions. They do not, they avoid thinking. I think they have some kind of mental block that prevents them of rationalizing or examining this claim. That's what I'm trying to say. So because here today I heard a question or a proposition that we must provide information, we must provide counterclaims, and that's the only way to improve the situation. But the counterclaims and opposition to their ideas would actually only improve their belief in their improve the conviction in their belief. Because when you try to say a person, no, you're wrong, what you believe is completely wrong, he will just he will view you as an enemy, and he will believe in his have more conviction in his belief at that time. So.
Well, what you just said about they have some sort of mental block on it, Muslim children are actually raised from birth to have this block. It's actually taught from birth that any doubts you have are whispers from Satan, and they will lead you to hell. So it's something. It not only does it exist, it's deliberately placed there from childhood.
As somebody brought up as a Muslim in the household, there is a surah in the Quran that says where Allah basically says, do not ask questions that will cause you trouble. Now, if you want the surah reference, I can get it in 2 minutes.
It's 5101.
So the Quran...
Chapter 5, sentence 101.
So the Quran, Allah is already telling you, don't question Muhammad, don't question me. You follow it blindly.
That's exactly the same in the Church of the Latter Day Saints. Most of you know it's as LDS or Mormon Church.
Yeah, the Mormon Church is fucking crazy when it comes to, not asking questions.
Oh yeah, you cannot actually read the books that are not advised to you by the church. It is forbidden to read any books that could harm your faith. And sometimes people get excommunicating for asking questions that or cross-referencing the information from the approved books, because someone in the higher ups forgot to check if the new books actually correspond with the current position of the church, or the old, or should they add the old books? Is everything according to the new legend? Because they constantly update their doctrine, and because of that, many Mormons got into a lot of trouble for just quoting the older official documents by the church.
Well, I mean, Mormonism has this massive thing about making its followers into little worker drones. I think one of the really interesting things is when they're like in their adolescence and in early 20s, they go on a sort of pilgrimage of their own. But you go quite often either to a different state or to abroad, and they dress the same. They're assigned. They can't use their actual name, and if you like, just call me brother, whatever, not my real name, and they're actually assigned a partner. And you're never supposed to leave each other's side, so you can both monitor each other. And it's just
and you cannot use the internet. You cannot call your friends by phone. You can only contact your family if they are also LDS, but only once per 1 week or 2 weeks if you behave like a nice boy. And only, I think, half an hour call is allowed. But only if you
obviously there's only while they're doing a little pilgrimage thing, trying to get converts.
Usually they only are allowed written correspondence, and everything is monitored by your supervisor. They actually just go from door to door and try to get new members to the church. That's it. That's the pilgrimage.
I once asked a Mormon, considering that Joseph Smith claimed that God had given him the ability to read Egyptian hieroglyphs, have you ever heard of an actual Egyptianologist who checked what Joseph Smith translated and actually saw if it actually is it like, oh, is this true or not? And it was like we're just dumbfounded, like it had never occurred to them. And the sad thing is, I remember thinking, you know what, I can believe it probably never has occurred to them.
It occurred. They actually checked. It was a piece of manuscript.
It obviously never occurred to them to even check the claims. And the sad thing is, it didn't even surprise me.
We asked our friend that is an LDS, why do you continue to believe this? Do you have any rationale about this? How do you rationalize with yourself to avoid doubts? He said, this is what I believe because I was brought up to believe this, and it makes me a better human. Because it forbids him from taking alcohol, from swearing, from getting angry, and it commands him to have quality time with his family, and he thinks that this makes him a better human, so he should believe it.
Do you have any religious background?
No, not really.
No, you're not like an ex-Catholic or Mormon or Muslim or anything?
When I was a child, I believed in Optimus Prime. Does that count?
Yes.
Honestly, it must have been absolutely.
Yes, that counts.
The Jedi are now an official religion. That's quite easy to do.
Well, I was 4.
All hail Optimus Prime. Stand behind him as he defeats Megatron. And then Megatron becomes Galvatron, and oh god, yes, Optimus Prime counts.
Okay, can we just take a quick break because we've got somebody, this Lil or whatever, who wanted to join. Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. What can we do for you?
Hey. Your microphone is on mute.
If you want to say something, you will need to unmute your microphone, which is when you put the mouse in the picture on the top row, click on the microphone. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Hello?
spam. Don't show it.
You are now unmuted.
Don't show it.
No,
No, we can't hear you.
Don't show it.
No, I will not.
Don't show the video.
Absolutely not.
I've just flipped through skips of it, and it could trigger and be offensive to people.
I know. That's why I said don't do it. Okay. Ziz, is there something that you want to say? Is there something that you want to communicate, or what?
Oh, the Jinn&Tonic show usually has a video of the week, and I think we're talking about that. I talked to you when I joined, but it's not working.
Okay, then you can sort out your microphone and then come back. Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
just check your settings, or check it's plugged in right. It might have come out.
I think you can manually unmute him from the control box.
No, it's not a muting thing. It's unmuted. It's just that the microphone doesn't seem to be working.
He's probably altered his settings to show the video, and it's messed about with his microphone settings.
Could also be, yeah.
Oh, but I've actually just remembered something. Stop. You remember that video I gave you of that very angry Muslim threatening to circumcise and even cut off the penis?
Yes.
I saw another video by him, and oh my god, you know that stereotype of like violent Muslims, where you know that stereotype where it's like, we'll chop the head off anyone that says we're violent. He's got a video out on YouTube. This video starts with him picking up a gun, like putting bullets in, cocking the gun, and threatening to shoot you if you say ISIS is Islam because Islam is peace, and he's threatening to shoot you if you.
Oh my god!
If you haven't got a video of the week, I can look that up and I can give you that video of the week, a little follow up to the penis cutting one.
Oh goodness! Yeah, okay, do that. Give that to me, and then I'll just link it. Because I'm not actually sure that GP gave me a video somewhere. I think GP just gave me some newspaper article, which I'm going to copy and then
video.
put
And now they're saying I've just had to flick through. Probably best not to use it. But anyway, what's this that GP has put in the chat? What is it? 30,000 Muslims or something rally against violence. What was the name of that video?
Violence for pirates.
Angry Muslim. I'll just put Trump. See if anyone's got it.
No, I'm actually
what's that Daily Mail article? There's a number of Muslims who are rallying against extremism.
Yes, 30,000 of them.
What sect are they? Because I remember a few years ago there was I think it was like 5,000 Ahmadiyas gathered in London to protest extremism, whatever.
Yes, they are. They're Ahmadiyans.
Oh, that's so sad. Not because I'm anything against Ahmadiyas, but because, like, I mean, how many Muslims even consider Ahmadiyya to be Muslims?
The Ahmadiyas this week also said they wanted to have British Muslims pledge allegiance to the flag of Britain. And
who is that? Who's pledging?
Allegiance to the flag.
No, who was doing that?
The Ahmadiyans.
Oh,
the British Ahmadiyans were saying it would help de-radicalise Muslims and give them a sense of community if they were to pledge allegiance to the flag and become British Muslims. And it was broadcast on LBC, and the Muslims who were phoning up, the Sunni Muslims, they were spitting teeth. They were furious.
I don't know
and
why.
It is so sad how it is treated.
Sorry, we have 5 people talking now.
And
it's so sad how Ahmadiyas are treated.
He couldn't believe that the Muslims were spitting teeth, and he was saying, "Well, what's wrong with it?" You know. But he doesn't realise that the Sunni Muslims and the Shiite Muslims have pledged allegiance already. They've pledged allegiance to Allah and to Muhammad and in the Caliphate. They already have their flag. It's might not be the same as. Well, it's a sword and a moon, isn't it? And you find it on all of the flags of the
That's the
Muslim
whole
states.
point. And I don't believe anything Ahmadiyas tell me because I don't know why there's a lot of them that will tell you any kind of bullshit that they want. That's amazing.
The Ahmadiyans are the ones who are getting the sort of like the religion of police being pulled out every time they want to say it. It will be an Ahmadiyyan on the media. It will never be a Sunni. It will never be a Shiite. It will always be an Ahmadiyya who will say, we're the religion of peace and we don't believe in all this. Now, there is one...
Do we have anything on the timeless veils?
No, but I've got something about the Muslim councils of Wales who have just said that Islam permits the sexual slaves, so you can expect to have a number of Welsh slaves soon.
Hang on, the Wales said that you can have...
No, the national...
Not the Wales, people in a country Wales.
Yeah, Wales.
But what did they say?
You know? The Muslim Council of Wales backs Islam's permit sexual slaves.
The Qur'an
The
permits
largest
sex slaves.
Muslim umbrella group in Wales has claimed all mosques and Muslim institutes in Wales are peaceful, as they backed an imam who told his congregation that war is approaching and Islam allows them to take women as slaves and rape them.
Okay.
It's
Well,
on
that's what
Breitbart
Muhammad
News.
said, so we can't argue with that, can you?
It's on Breitbart News, so you're not going to see this on the mainstream media.
Okay. All right, do we have anything on timeless veils? Does anybody think that slavery should still be allowed today in the 21st century?
Just before you get to that, that link there is his video with the gun.
Okay, so I need to copy this and then put this in as video of Zavik, yeah?
You might actually want to put another link just to that other one where he threatens Donald, just so we can see both.
Because this is so amazing. I'll see what other one he's got, then I'll put both of them as videos.
Well, I know you already put the other one, didn't you? Where he's like, you know, he's to cut his dick off and like cut his foreskin off.
I can't remember whether I did that or not, or whether I thought it was too tasteless.
Well, okay, just in case. So this is the one
Yeah,
where...
well, I'll just go to his channel and take the previous one.
Wait, I'm just...
But if you want to do the work for me, you're welcome to do so.
How did I just put it up? Okay, so that first one is him cocking a gun and threatening you if you say ISIS is Islam.
And the other one gunning a
And that second one, that's the one where he suddenly grabs a knife and starts waving it around on camera, screaming that he's going to circumcise Donald Trump. And at one point actually says, "I cut your dick off!" So, little video of the week.
Lovely. Okay, do we have anything on timeless veils? Do people think that slavery is still something that we should be propagating today in this day and age?
Well, I think more along the lines of how
What a slave master.
of one religion, the Jewish religions, transferred to Christianity, and then how did it transfer to Islam? What is the similarity? What is the common value that is running through all of them?
It's the same thing. It's just that a slave is a slave is a slave, and you are allowed to do as you please with a slave. There's no difference between the Jews, the Christians, or the Muslims.
Well, I disagree, because the Jews set out rules for slaves and certain workers' slave rights, shall we call them. The Christians said if God makes you a slave, you're going to have to stay as a slave. And when it came to Muslims, Muhammad said, capture them. They're your booty, your earnings for...
Well, I mean, Judaism,
I see what you mean.
about,
Yeah, okay.
But when Judaism talks about slaves, I mean, it says that you can't enslave a fellow Israelite, and if a fellow Israelite becomes to be your servant, then you can only have him for 6 years. But with non-Israeli, with non-Jewish slaves, you know, I mean, you can beat them, you can rape them, you can pass them on as property.
You can't kill them.
Slaves are your property. I think the only thing it says is if you beat a slave so bad, and then like on the 6th day they die. I think that's the only thing it warns against doing.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with the story of the man who went to a village and the sons of Benjamin wanted to rape him, so he gave him his slave. So they raped his slave, but she died. So he cut her parts into 12 different parts, or gave one part to each part of the Jewish tribes of Israel, who then proceeded to slaughter the tribe of Benjamin.
This just reminds me of this. I think I mentioned it once before. This ex-Christian I was talking to, and he just made this comment about how he grew up thinking Christianity was all peace and love and wonderful, and then one day he opened the Bible and was absolutely horrified.
Yeah. Christianity can be. It's a case of they should never have really brought in the Old Testament. That's a different route. That's for the Jews. If you want to be
that doesn't make sense. But hang on. Without the Old Testament, you cannot have a Jesus.
Yes, that's true. But when Jesus died, you had a new contract, a new set of rules, a new way to behave.
You actually can have a Jesus without the Old Testament.
No, you can't. Jesus needs to have a reason to appear, to go and justify the original sin. Without the original sin, there's no Jesus.
Yeah, but the point I'm kind of making is, the actual line, because the Messiah has to be a direct descendant of David, which I think Jesus never really pulled off, and the actual prophecy about what the Messiah will accomplish was kind of bullshit. The quote-unquote Messiah is definitely not the Messiah that the Jews saw coming, which is, why there are still Jews, which is why they're all converted.
The Jews are very much like the Muslims in both groups need to have a set of rules for them to follow, literally, to be able to get to the kingdom of heaven. But in Christianity, the idea is that you have a Holy Ghost who bypasses the rules and just makes you do the good thing.
Well, most Jewish sects, or at least the ancient ones, didn't even believe in an afterlife. They had no heaven or hell.
I know. Yeah. They just believed you went to dirt.
You went directly to heaven.
Well, yeah, but you die. It was actually Jesus who first introduced the idea of hell. Yeah. But no, Judaism, you look at
You're wrong. If you look at the Begat, if you look at the Begat stage of the early Testaments, there is a reference where one person didn't die; he just went directly to live with God.
Who was that?
I don't know his name, but he just said he went out to the dead.
Josiah or something.
And you have other references of different prophets who were taken to live with God. But there wasn't a heaven, they were all alive.
That can't be biblically true, because
it is biblically true. You'll find it in the Bible.
And I'm going to explain it from the Bible if you let me finish. If you go to John 3:13, Jesus says, "No man has ascended into heaven, but he that descended, the Son of Man." Because that's an argument I would use with a Mormon. Because I'll ask a Mormon.
Are we not talking about the Old Testament, though, not the New Testament?
We're talking about. Let me finish. Then you'll probably get my point. Jesus clearly states in John 3:13, "No man has ascended into heaven, but he that descended, the Son of Man." So using that line of logic, Jesus is basically saying no one's gone to heaven. No Enoch, no David, no Moses, no Abraham. None of these men have gone to heaven. When he talks about Lazarus' death, he says he's asleep in death. The Apostle Paul uses the term of death as asleep. So this heaven and hell isn't a Jewish way of thinking, because the Jews never believed in that when you go to the text. But the Christians didn't believe it either for the first century.
What really helped the ideas of heaven and hell was Christian persecution by the Roman Empire. It was supposed to be that they had the truth, they had a proper religion, and yet there was still the minority, they were still getting fucked over, and it was out of this desire that it's like, oh, God must have some sort of plan, and then ideas of hell sort of spread and spread and spread and spread and spread. Very interestingly, I think when it comes to Islam, when it talks about hell, I was just speaking as someone with a vaguely Catholic background. The ideas of hell described in the Qur'an is something that was basically exactly the same as what the churches at the time were teaching. If you actually go into numerous ancient churches, particularly around the Middle Eastern and Constantinople area, you can, and this predates Muhammad, by the way, you can actually find in these churches pictures that basically describe the Islamic description of hell. I mean, I'm talking right down to the iron rods with the hooks. It's right there. And, you know, I mean, the only thing Muhammad did with his description of hell was just say what the priests have been making more and more and more graphic.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
The point there, though, is what the priests were teaching, not what the Bible's teaching. He just amalgamated.
Well, the Bible says it's a place of fire and torment. And then it's like they sort of expanded on that. You're going to be boiled alive, drink pus. There's hooked rods of iron, and then this bit entered the imagery and the arts and was painted in murals and churches. And then by the time Muhammad came along, you know, all this shit was just sort of common belief.
Where this graphic description of it is in the Bible, please.
No, it's not in the Bible.
No. In the Bible it talks about hell and an idea of eternal and suffering.
I'm asking you where, because I've got two translations here. I'd like to read it for myself. Can you tell me where? So this graphic description of hell. Can you tell me the chapter?
Raven was saying that the church was propagating this in this graphic version, which was then picked up.
Which sort of got like more and more graphic over time.
In the Bible, and it was expanded on the text in the Bible. I'm merely asking what text.
Okay. No. Okay, one more time. Jesus says in the Bible that there is a place called hell.
Where?
He says it's a place of fire and torment.
That's all I'm asking, a simple question. Where does he say that?
You don't know that in the Bible Jesus is the first to talk about hell?
That's why I'm asking the question.
Well, yeah, in the Bible Jesus talks about hell.
I'm asking where, so I can see for myself.
Well, it's when he talks about Gehenna. Gehenna, by the way, is the root word of the Arabic Jahannam.
Gehenna was a rubbish tip outside Jerusalem.
Right, and that's what that's what he used to describe it. He actually used. Sorry.
No, wrong.
Sorry. Gehenna at the time was a place of eternal fire. It was a place of eternal fire precisely because it was a rubbish pile. It was a refuge tip. All the stink and the dead bodies of criminals and shit like that was perpetually burning. And he described the place. He described hell. And he described it as being like Gehenna. He pointed to Gehenna and basically said that's it, which is where ideas of hell came from. Because, you know, anyone who had earned a fate like Gehenna must have been seriously wicked. And that was pretty much all he mentioned. Then, over the centuries, more than 1,000 years later, priests and different churches continuously expanded on the idea of hell. Not only did they simply say it was a place of torment, but they actually gave details of what that torment was. And this evolved, and the story and the legend grew over time. So they actually specified what you could experience. And this isn't in the Bible. This is what the followers of Christianity over the 1,000 years. They specified it. They said they would have pus that you'll be forced to drink. That you'd have to drink burning waters, that you'd be whipped with hooked rods of iron, that you'd have fucking pokers shoved up your arse. But I think that's just a cartoon invention.
I think the hell that came into the New Testament was because...
Oh, stop Simon's help us out. Gehenna, Matthew, Mark, Luke, James,
the authors were Greek.
Yeah, I'm not challenging that the false Christians or Christendom has embellished and misunderstood.
False Christians?
Well, yeah, you can get false Muslims, can't you? People who claim to be a thing that they're not. You can get Christians that can claim to be Christian, but they're not actually Christian. So, by implication, that's a false Christian, then, yeah.
Well, my idea of a Muslim would be someone who believes there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger.
My interpretation.
My idea of a Christian would be someone who believes that Jesus is either the Son of God or literally God Himself made flesh.
Can we please stop talking about the Bible and Christians now? The source where I got this from was Matt Slick. He's a Christian apologist.
Okay, guys, let me say a final word on this one. When you said that Christ can exist with the Old Testament, you're underestimating religion. They'll brainwash anything in a brain. So,
Well, it's just
okay, that is the
radically
final
different,
word.
Jesus says,
Okay,
from what
can
Prophet
we stop
Isaiah was-
talking about the Bible now?
Well, I mean, to be fair, we were talking about how this started the Islamic concept of hell, and you know how these images grew over time to the point
Exactly,
that
there were
what's
stories
described
floating
in
around.
Islam as hell
It was
is
theory,
basically what
wasn't it?
Christians were teaching at the time.
The Jews and the Christians were all coming out with these theories, and some were rejected. And the people who were rejected, it is believed by folk like Tom Hammond, were pushed out into the fringes where Muhammad lived and preached to him about the concepts of hell and the heretical Christianity that the central government didn't want. Central government being the church, whatever you like to call it, because there was about 3 or 4 main churches at the time.
You know, stop. If you're interested, there's another link I could give you, since we've been on the subject.
No.
It's called Debunking Jahannam, Why Islamic Hell is Not Real.
I'm not interested.
No, okay.
I don't think hell exists. I mean, I think this whole discussion is futile because there is nothing that says that hell exists, that heaven exists, that... Come on, there's nothing.
Yeah,
We're
there's only one thing
pretending
I think
things.
is important regarding hell and the free
Well,
religions. Wait a minute. What I find is that the 2 religions look at hell as being something they talk about, but it's usually heaven they're aiming for. But with
Okay,
Muslims, I've always got the impression they preach the fear of hell, and that scares Muslims into being
All right,
Muslims.
and that's exactly the point. It's a concept. It's not a physical place which is being mentioned, Gehenna or whatever. It's a concept. It's
tool.
enough to get kids, to get kids scared. If you're not going to do as this God says, then you are going to end up in hell, which is a terrible place, and blah blah
And
blah.
there's an
And that's
angel
the whole
writing
point.
all your bad deeds on your shoulder.
Exactly.
I mean, why bring up that shit if you're not trying to scare
But on the
someone?
other hand, if you behave well and you keep some sex slaves and you rape them regularly, then you're a good guy and you can go up to heaven. This is the
Even
morality.
Muhammad poo-pooed that a little bit, didn't he?
Okay, so what we have established so far, there are some timeless values. In other words, we don't approve too much of killing the firstborn baby of everyone in the country. I think we can all agree on that, right?
I think there's only one timeless
Wasn't that
value
actually
applies
about-
between the
wasn't
three.
that
Whoa,
actually
whoa, whoa,
value
don't
of
everybody
God?
talk at the same time, please.
I started first, I thought.
Okay, GP, it's you.
I would like to say there's only one timeless value that transcends all 3 religions, and that is the golden rule, except where it gets to the Islam, where the golden rule only applies to Muslims. It doesn't apply to anybody else.
I think the golden rule is wrong as well. But that's
Yeah, but it's a basic theory that you do unto others which you would like done unto you. It's essentially saying be nice to each other. So the Jews
but what
are saying,
we've done,
you
we've been
want
through this.
slaves, so be nice to your strangers in a strange land. The Christians are saying be nice to other people who are not Christians, but the Muslims are saying be nice to Muslims only and make everybody else your slave or your dhimmi.
Okay, but we've already been through this, and we all know that if
Yes,
you
but
like...
I'm trying to
you
just
already
answer your
know-
question about timeless values that transcend the religions. Why do you always have to argue against me?
Let's hear Hadith of the day, guys.
No, I was after GP.
No, I was.
No,
Oh.
Raven was.
But no, talking about, you said one of the things we can agree is a timeless value, I think you said, is not killing the firstborn son, which immediately made me think of God killing all the firstborn children of Egypt.
Did I say son? No, I meant child. Okay.
Well,
but the thing
well
with the-
again, Egypt, God killing all the firstborn, and then like you've got divine commandments of genocide, where it says, don't spare any of them, get fucking little kids and babies and smash them on rocks.
Exactly.
So even that isn't a timeless value. It's a timeless value if you're saying don't do it to my tribe, but if you're saying don't do it in general, it's
a
not a
timeless
value.
value for human beings is don't kill firstborn babies.
And then we had that timeless value which says in the Bible, God killed all the firstborn.
Exactly.
Well, even
So
before
it's not
that,
timeless. It is
or after that,
for the
Jews are
time
told.
period.
Jews are taught that the firstborn son is to be consecrated to the Lord, but the parents are able to buy him back within a year.
Okay, but this is exactly my point. A timeless value is don't kill babies. And yet, the God in the Old Testament says, no, 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 there are times when you are allowed to do that. And this is
So then how's
exactly
it a timeless
the
value?
discrepancy that I'm trying to show. The same, we had the story with the golden rule. If you are somebody who is a pervert who likes to be spanked during sex, it does not mean that this guy wants to do to others what others want to do or what others should do to him. So it doesn't always work. So the golden rule is something that you need to, you can sell this only with a little asterisk explaining it.
Do not do unto others as they would do unto you, because they personally might not like your likes. And I think that was said by a very famous homosexual.
Well, I mean, I don't particularly want to be locked up in prison for the rest of my life, but I'm very glad Charles Manson is.
Okay, that's exactly the point. So you can find exceptions for this. So in general, it's fine, but there are exceptions. So another timeless value, I think, is do not own other human beings.
You know what I'm talking about, particularly bringing it back to Islam.
That's what
Islamic morality. One of the things I'm quite looking forward to is there's recently been plans about establishing in London a blowjob cafe. They want to give you a blowjob with your morning coffee, and if this works out, then they want to roll these stores across the UK. And I'm just waiting to see if that does happen, like what the Islamic reaction is going to be.
So what happens if you want cream with that?
I think it's a bit extra cream, you know, it's a blast. What happened if this actually was something that... I know that you actually get bars like this in Japan, but apparently the blogger was talking about doing it. He either started one in Thailand, or he got the idea from Thailand, and then he wanted to do one in Geneva, and I think it's actually set up in Geneva now. And so now it's like, okay, well, that's Thailand, that's Geneva, and now he wants to do it in London.
Okay, the point was I wanted to collect some timeless values and then compare them to what we get in the Quran. But I think my point was somehow lost.
Well, I don't think he stated
well,
it.
Dominating
we could do it next week. I think,
dominating women for your own sexual gratification seems to be a timeless value.
Not stealing is supposed to be a timeless value.
A universal timeless value. Yes. Okay, maybe this is not. Or maybe I should take up GPZ's suggestion and do this for next week. Everybody, do some homework. Find me something that you find a universal timeless value, such as not killing babies or not owning human beings.
A secular or
even then with babies,
Muslim.
Many societies that actually would kill their own children if they were deformed. You had many ancient tribes that if there wasn't enough food going around, they would leave babies out to die. Even in ancient Roman times, when there were food abundant, if you didn't like the children of slaves, concubines, prostitutes, you just kill the infants. It was a very normal thing to do.
Okay, so you think there are circumstances under which it is justified to kill babies?
No, I never said it was justified. I'm saying that this isn't a timeless value.
It might be a timeless value because the Spartans used to get rid of the inferior children so they could have a master race of soldiers.
No,
it wasn't just that. I mean, there was a number of...
For them, it was a value.
Let me just explain what I mean by timeless value. A value that we assign today throughout the times, which should be a value where there should be no justification for breaking it. I'm not saying that it wasn't or maybe or could or whatever. I'm saying what we today assign the title timeless value to, because I'm saying nowhere in time should it be allowed under any circumstances to go and kill babies. I think it is not right to kill babies regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the times. I don't think it is right to own human beings regardless of the times, regardless of what happens, wherever, however. I think this, for us today, is a timeless value the way that it should have been and the way that it should be in the future.
I think racism is bad.
Well, I mean, we're talking about killing babies. I mean, like, would you include abortion?
That's not a baby.
So you would.
A baby is after birth.
Well, what if it was? Well, what if she was like 8 months pregnant?
What, is it after birth?
Well, at 8 months, it's a fucking baby.
Okay, I just defined it as after birth. If you want to now nail it down to 3 days, no, it doesn't work. I'm saying after birth.
Well, I mean, no, because even when it comes down to abortion ethics,
I know what you're going. I know where you're going. I understand what you're trying to do. And I'm cutting this, I'm nipping this in the bud and saying after birth.
Okay. I mean, there is a specific time, just on any...
You're doing it anyway.
No, I am coming to something. I know
that you are, and I know exactly what you're doing.
Really? What am I coming to?
That there is a time when you can call something a baby, even if it's not a baby, if it can go and sustain itself, even if it's taken out of the womb.
No. I was actually going to bounce off from there, but actually wasn't what I was rounding up to.
Bouncing babies.
Well, you can bounce them. You have very soft skeletons.
Abu, what were you going to say?
Okay, I mean, a lot of them...
Your name's not Abu.
Particularly when it comes to abortion, the whole idea when it comes to whether or not it's moral is if what's being aborted can actually be classed as a baby. Now, there is a certain
this is what you wanted to go to.
Can be classed.
No,
but just let me.
What's this
There is a certain point before the birth. It's developed enough. It has like brain waves, things like that, when it can be classed as a baby. Now, this to me is, in a way, I don't even know if it's relevant. I'm not saying it's not relevant. I'm saying I don't know if it's relevant when it comes to the idea of abortion. The whole abortion thing for me has never been whether or not such and such is a baby. It's, do you not have a right to your own body and things like that.
Okay, great.
Can
so
we
what
have
is
Hadith
wrong
for
with the
that?
definition saying, I think it's a timeless value that babies shouldn't be killed?
What did Muhammad say about babies?
No, I don't
Well,
want to go
Muhammad
to
said
that
the soul...
Can you tell us next week?
No, I can tell you. Muhammad said that
No,
the
it's getting
soul
late. Can you give it
enters
next
the
week? Because it's very late, and I think Stop Spamming wants to wind up.
Abu, what was the point you were trying to make?
I think it's the 40th day.
I don't remember.
And then the soul.
Anymore.
I could just throw it.
One point I should try. You know, there are medicines for ADHD, Raven.
Yes.
They're like amphetamine and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they still will grow. I'm a growing boy.
Raven, let him talk.
No, first thing I want to say, like, I don't think all people have as good values as Stop Spamming, or not as good, and definitely not in all time. And I'm a bit afraid that this endeavor gonna be quite futile because no one will agree upon anything.
Okay.
People have done bad stuff all the time, and
well, it kind of depends. If stop spamming means like every single person on the face of the earth right now agrees that killing babies or having slaves is wrong.
No.
Or if is it the majority? I mean, the majority today do have certain values. They would say timeless. Not every single human being on the planet, but most of them.
But then
I'm
it's not
talking
timeless.
about you personally.
I can find you some people are fine with owning slaves and shit like that.
This is exactly why I did not formulate it like that. You personally, what are timeless values for you personally?
Ah, for you personally.
I don't
Don't be a racist. Don't be a
Okay, there you go. So why don't we, for next week, go and see what is it that people consider for themselves to be timeless values, and then let's compare this to, I don't know, Qur'an, to Bible, to whatever, and look at what the different gods have to say about what we humans in the 21st century, like I will say, do not kill babies. But we all know, we've established this just now, that the Jewish God thinks there could be some times when it's okay to kill babies. And I think it's not. So this is exactly the point that I'm trying to make. For example, I would love to know what other things people consider to be timeless values for themselves, because I think it is wrong to own another person. It doesn't matter what time. I don't care what time in the past. I don't care what time in the future. For me personally. And now if I go and take my morality, my personal compass, and compare that to the Quran, I see that I am morally superior to the God of Islam. And this is something that, this is just an exercise where I thought, okay, it would be interesting to see what others come up with. Because I don't know what only me, I mean, I know that I'm the most superior moral person on this planet. I know that. But I'd like to know what others say.
I wonder, do you think there is responsibility attached to slavery as a keeper, as an owner?
Absolutely. It's your personal financial investment.
So there is a responsibility there. So you could say your children are your slaves because you're responsible for them.
No, because they have a choice.
Yeah, but if they don't,
They don't have a choice in being your children.
They don't. If they don't do what they're told, is your what are you going to do? You're going to punish them? Is that not what you do to a slave who doesn't do what they're told?
No, to a slave, according to the text, I believe that people whipped them.
Well, maybe you might not go so far as to whip your children, like some parents have been known to do. Maybe you just slap them.
No.
Maybe, but
no.
That's why you've got people who say you must never slap children.
No. The point is, even if I slap my children, this is not being torture. And the point is, if my children are 18, they can...
Yeah, well, they wouldn't be children then, would they? They'll be adults.
Okay, if you were to kill me on this technicality, yes, then children before the age of 15 are slaves.
So there you go, you're
And
a
now
slave
what?
keeper. You're a slave keeper.
But I don't...
There are certain situations...
I did not buy them. I did not capture them. I did not take them out of their environment.
So you have to capture...
We didn't do that with children of the slaves that you inherit.
No, hang on. Now we need to go and define what a slave is.
Yes, you need to define what a slave is.
Let's do that.
I would say someone that works for you and doesn't have a choice, like they can't quit.
No, it's somebody that you capture or buy.
Well, what about if you inherit them from a parent?
Or inherit, sorry. Okay, yes.
Slave,
Capture, buy,
and
inherit.
like you die and your kids inherit them.
What if they come up to you and say, I can't afford to live. If you look after me and give me food and lodgings, I will do whatever you want. Is that a slave?
That's not a slave, no.
That's what the Greek
Well,
people
is a slave if you don't let them go.
Yeah, if they did it for life, that's what a slave was in Greece. Somebody who couldn't
My
afford to
personal
live.
definition is you need to
Well,
buy them,
in
inherit them,
Greece,
or
you could have
capture them.
temporary
Let's
You
do
could
this.
have temporary slaves in Greece.
You always had permanent ones. I'm talking before they had the change in the rules. Because Greece is a very, very rocky landscape, and farmers couldn't afford or couldn't grow the crops all the time to support their families, so they would voluntarily go into slavery to a rich landowner who could afford to feed them.
Okay, instead of now going into the
And then they did the
nitty-gritty
civilized
of some...
thing and enslaved Thracians.
Yes, I know spamming. It goes into that sort of diversity, but that's because slavery is a hell of a bad example.
Okay, this is why I said bring up a good example.
Well, I think racism.
Can we do this next
Judging
week?
somebody on the colour of their skin is an incredibly stupid thing to do.
Can we do this next week?
Yes.
Brilliant! Hadith of the week.
I've said this about half an hour ago.
So why don't we listen to you?
I don't know. You and Raven are always talking over the top of me.
That's a good
You're always
one.
talking over the top of me. I try and speak and there you are butting in.
A big round of applause for everybody for doing such a good show this week.
Okay, guys, Hadith of the week. Okay, Sahih Bukhari, Book 4, the 54,482. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's a very short one. And it's about hell. The hellfire. Now, the hellfire, okay, this is the fire in hell. The hellfire complained to its Lord. I don't quite know. What is the Lord of the hellfire? I actually should have
talking.
What is the song? Is it
Allah
Allah or is it the devil? Is it the...
No, it's Allah. Allah is the Lord of the hellfire.
The Lord of the Fire. I know there's a song about this. I
Is Allah the king
bring
of hell?
you the Lord of Fire.
Lord of the
Fire.
Dark Says,
Da, da, da.
and that's half
Okay.
the ground.
The hellfire complained to its Lord, saying, "Oh my Lord, my
Hellfire complaint.
The fire is complaining to the Lord, saying, "Oh my Lord, my different parts
It's hot down here.
eating each other up." So he, the Lord, allowed it to take 2 breaths, one in the winter and the other in summer. And this is the reason for the severe heat and the bitter cold you find in weather.
Ah,
So it's
now
hellfire
I know.
breathing in and breathing out.
Yep.
But he does it at night as well, because I understand the deserts can be very, very cold at night, and very parched and dry and hot during the day.
No, this is your perception. It is wrong. According to Sahih Bukhari, Muhammad said it does it twice.
Only twice.
You know,
Only twice. Not during the night, not during the day, but once in summer and once in winter.
Explains that he had all these wives keeping him warm in bed.
I don't know. We're talking about hell so much, and I have a very good link for debunking hell, and you're not interested.
We're going to talk about it next week.
I don't know if you noticed, but I couldn't help but laugh when you said that. You've got a show about Islam, and then you get annoyed about hell. I don't want to talk about it because I don't believe in it, and then go back to talking about Islam, which you don't believe in.
Islam either.
No, but talking about hell as though it were a real thing. This is what got me. Ladies, gents, and others, thank you very much. It's been a very entertaining 2.5 hours.
Hell is
I'll
Twitter.
see you next week, same time, same space, godless.ch, and it's 1800 p.m. And next week what am I gonna find a picture for timeless values? And next week, I promise I'm going to spell timeless values correctly, and we're going to have the real thing.
You could have like a picture of like the signed Declaration of Human Rights or something.
Oh, I'm sure
I can make you a picture. You know what? If you bring some order to this show, I can make you a picture.
We
will not suffer dictators!
I will bring a whip next time. Yeah. I'm too lenient, I know. I'm too good for this world, I know. Okay, guys.
I actually really do have to quickly ask a question. You know when you say that when you made that distinction about talking about Islam, which you don't believe in, I mean, if you don't actually want to talk about what Islam itself teaches, then you're not talking about Islam, you're talking about Muslims.
No, I don't believe in the basics. I don't look. Jesus didn't exist. Muhammad didn't exist. Gods don't exist. So hell doesn't exist. Heaven doesn't exist. I'm talking about the concepts. There is a concept of a God which exists. There's a concept of a Muhammad, of a Jesus, not as a person, but as a concept. And those things exist. So the message exists.
In a show that primarily focuses on religion and mentions religious motivation, then I don't really see the problem with actually discussing and debunking the claims of this religion.
The thing is that if you are talking about Jahannam, about a physical place in Jerusalem, then this doesn't make sense to me, because it's not about the physical place, but it's about the concept. So it's not that this physically exists. It's not something that is down and God is up. That to me is stupid. It's the concept of a God. It's the concept of hell and heaven, which the God uses as a carrot and a stick. It's the concepts as such. It's not the physical location.
You need to compare.
But you also have a problem. But you also have a problem with showing where this concept came from and why it's not true.
Oh, it is based on that, absolutely. It is based on the concept of a place in Jerusalem, and the name of that place then transpired into Islam, absolutely. But then you only use it once and that's it. But you don't put that this is there and this is the place and this is where the hell is located. No,
that's not what I asked. No. What I asked is is there a problem with not talking about the physical locations, but well, maybe if it's to an overall point as far as the religious texts go, but actually making a point of saying we can actually trace where this religious belief comes from. It comes from here, this is what the belief is, and this is why we know it's bullshit.
Well, this is talking about the concept, exactly. But the thing is, if we're going off on a tangent and discussing the concept, not as a concept, but then discussing where, how long, and why, in how many words, then it's too much, I think.
So you're not interested in debunking religious claims?
Not if they're in the Bible.
Well, I've had one specifically titled Debunking Jahannam, Why Islamic Hell is Not Real.
Okay, we can do that, and we can. Yeah, but then, then the Jewish.
No, sorry, I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm just.
No. I understand what you're trying to do. I understand perfectly, because you could feel that I was trying to get away from the topic because I was getting irritated with the depth that it was going to, and preferred to go back to the Islamic one. Absolutely correct, and that is what I'm trying to explain to you. That if we are going to be talking about the Islamic concept of hell, to use the basics and to use the etymology, if you want to call it that, absolutely. But then I don't agree with going to great details discussing how the Jews got to their hell. Do you understand the difference?
Well, yes and no. I understand the difference, but at the same time, it sort of is linked. And if you can use that to show why the Islamic idea of hell is not true, and it seems useful.
Yeah, but I got the feeling that we were getting stuck. Like now we were discussing how many times does the word hell appear in the New Testament, and
that was
then it gets too much.
Not mine.
I'm not assigning blame. I'm just saying if then this happens, then it gets a little bit too much. And then I try to bring it back to the topic at hand.
Okay, fair enough. Are we actually still streaming?
Yeah, actually, I should stop. No, because I'm interested in feedback like that. So